Let's call the select board meeting to order for Monday, July 13th, 7 p.m. I had muted everybody that I could mute, so if you need to talk, you can unmute yourself. If you have a question, raise your hand, send us a chat. We'll try to pay attention to those. Other than that, do we have any additions, changes to the agenda, Val? Nothing? Okay. Public forum. Anybody have anything they'd like to say in less than 5 minutes that is not currently on the agenda? Okay. First order of business. Fire Chief Brett LaRose. Recognition of Chad Furler's 19 years of service on the Bristol Fire Department. You got the floor, Brett.
Can you hear me, Michelle?
I sure can.
All right. Hey, well, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Select Board. Thank you for allowing me to be on your agenda this evening. For those of you who haven't seen the agenda, the purpose of my visit here this evening is I want to acknowledge the recent resignation of one of our longtime firefighters, Chad Purley. Chad is the husband of Michelle, but Chad made the very difficult decision just a few weeks ago, after 19 years of service to the Bristol Fire Department, to turn in his resignation. Many variables, health reasons being one, family commitments and other, but I know from personal experience, walking away from such a commitment to an organization such as the Bristol Fire Department is not a easy decision to make, and one that I know Chad gave a lot of consideration to. I watch a lot of firefighters come and go as people move into town, move away, priorities change. But to have folks with such tenure as Chad has, you don't see them step away that often after so many years. And that's why I know Chad put a great deal of thought into this. But Chad in his 19 years has done a tremendous amount of, contributed a tremendous amount to the town and to the Bristol Fire Department. Not only was Chad an outstanding firefighter, very ambitious, go-getter, one of the guys you just kind of look to when things aren't going so well, the guy you wanted to be on the hose line with when you're entering that building. Also an extremely talented vehicle extrication technician. Chad was one of those resources within the department that we would go to when it came to vehicle extrication. His knowledge, his training in that area was surpassed many. Chad also, I think one of his biggest contributions to the organization was his commitment to fundraising. For those of you who don't know, the fire department has a couple fundraisers each year, but our largest fundraiser is our annual $20K or $20,000 raffle dinner dance. And Chad's 19 years in the fire department, I did a little backtracking. He was on the committee that put that on for, I believe it was about 15 years. And for the last 8 of those years, he has chaired or co-chaired that committee. And that is, it's almost a year-round commitment, leading that effort. That effort brings in thousands of dollars to the organization, to the town every year to help us buy needed equipment, on average $10,000 a year. So Chad is certainly, he and the efforts of the committee members is certainly, it's certainly worth noting those contributions. It's easier to say Chad is responsible for raising, close to $100,000 for the town of Bristol and their fire department. And as I said, that those funds buy valuable equipment for us to help us with our day-to-day operations as firefighters. I don't want to take up much time, but I do really feel it was important for me personally, as I've had the privilege of serving with Chad for 19 years. But it's always hard to watch someone walk away that was, so committed and so dedicated. But what was for me so admirable about Chad's departure is he chose to go out on his terms. Like I said, I know he put a lot of thought into this decision, but he can walk away and hold hold his head high, knowing that he made a difference in the town of Bristol and to their fire department for 19 years. And his contributions, won't be forgotten. So with that, members of the select board, I know you have a resignation in front of you, and I'm not sure if you're acting on that at this time, but it's certainly my recommendation with regret that you do accept that resignation from Chad Purley. And again, I would just like to say thank you, Chad. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you to your children for the tremendous sacrifices I know you have made over the years, because you gave, just as we all do, so much of your personal time. So thank you, Chad. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. So appreciate that. And it was a very tough decision.
Yeah. Michelle,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that the board accepts Chad Purley's resignation with deep regret and thank him for his 19 years of tremendous service to the Bristol Fire Department. And we wish him well in his endeavors.
I have a second.
Yeah, second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Quick question.
Go ahead.
What's involved in becoming an honorary member of the fire department? Is it just a standard recognition? Is there a process?
So there is a process, Valerie. That's an excellent question. So per town policy, at our July business meeting a week ago, I can't even keep track anymore. I think it was a week ago. Upon receiving a recognition of someone who has a minimum of 5 years of service, someone can make a motion, if you will, from the floor to consider the individual for honorary recognition. However, we don't make the decision that evening. That recommendation to put someone on an honorary past member type list then goes before the department's recognition and awards committee. So those, it's an honor to be placed into that category. It says something about the individual and what they've given to the organization. So that goes back to the recognition awards committee, and they make they'll do their research, and come back the next month and make a recommendation to the department to make, in this case, Chad Purley an honorary member.
Any other questions? Thank you, Brett. All those in favor? Raise your hands, wave, whatever. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you. And if you excuse me, I'm going to return to my daughter's 10th birthday party. So
Absolutely. Tell Lana happy birthday.
all right. Good night, everybody.
Have a night.
Okay, next order of business. Continued discussion about public outreach and community engagement regarding Bristol policing philosophy and implementation.
I have not seen any new information on this topic since we talked about it at the last meeting. Maybe perhaps Bruce has some updates.
I haven't received a lot of feedback, but I would suggest that maybe we set up a evening where we can do kind of a hybrid meeting, where if people want to come in person, we could set up at Holly Hall, and those that want to Zoom. And if we get a huge turnout, we can always schedule a second meeting.
What if I can't remember, somebody suggested us doing a pre-registration, have them pre-register so you know how many that are going to actually show up in person, so you can decide, okay, do I have enough room or do we need to do 2 meetings? Is there a way we can do that, Val?
Good question. This is new territory. I presume so. I'll have to figure out the mechanics of how to do it.
Yeah.
One.
How many people can we fit in Holly Hall that are socially distanced?
Well, I would recommend that see, downstairs we have the screen to be able to broadcast the Zoom screen like we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Upstairs, that would be difficult unless we have a projector.
Right.
And maybe that's possible. We can figure that out between now and whenever that date is. So yeah, I think we can figure that out.
Yeah, the rec department has a projector and has the screen already in place upstairs. It would just require, I guess, maybe Neat's involvement in terms of filming depending on how you'd film with a laptop and film multiple people in the space. So yeah, we'd have to do, there's some technical issues that we need to look at for a situation like that.
If the laptop screen is projected on a broad screen, then that's just part of the venue.
Correct. It would be the people zooming in. They would need to be able to see the rest of the people and the people hosting. Since you know, I guess the host could be in front of a laptop and also have the Zoom meeting as well. It would just be like, you just have to sort of figure it out, like, you know, work out how you'd actually, who's seeing who and when and how.
Right.
And I'm sure we could talk to Sean or Mary about that in terms of assistance.
Because I know in Zoom, you can have whoever's talking be the one, you know, front and center if you set it up that way. So, okay.
Right. Zoom works because we all individually have computers.
Right.
We have someone there. Do all the people presenting, does Bruce have a computer and do other people have computers, or does the audience, you know, do they interact in another way? Again, it's just a sort of a logistical thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, the question would be now is how do you pick the date?
Right.
And do you pick the date and poll everybody, you know, if like Val does, and do a poll, or do you just pick a date and put it out there? John, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Just, I'm not clear on of the meeting. Is what's sort of headline? What's the pitch to people? Come and discuss.
Bruce, you want to take that one on?
So we're looking for input from the public on what they want to see in the police department. We also are updating our policies and procedures and reviewing, and we have a new procedure for, or an updated procedure for use of force, which seems to be in the out there in society. Be presenting that at the same time.
Bruce, I have a quick question. You broke out for a little bit. You said the point of the meeting is, and then it broke out.
Is to get input from the community on what they would like to see the direction of the police department.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Some of
Michelle?
it described as a community conversation about Bristol policing.
Mark, do you have something you want to say?
Could someone geographically define for me community?
It's a good question. Is
Who
it just
pays?
is it just going to be the police district? Is it going to be townwide? I mean, can you really limit that?
Why not? We're the ones that pay.
Well, I know that, but can you limit it to just being the police district?
I believe you can. You become subjective, and well, depends on the issue. We open it up townwide. Let me give you an analogy. Let's say the district decided we want to buy a third cruiser, so all three officers have an emergency vehicle to respond to. John's people say, hey, they can make that decision. Doesn't cost us a dime. We don't care. So what makes this different? It shouldn't be the issue. Last week or your last select board's meeting, you had a good example where it didn't matter what the organization, what the purpose was on the park. You had a cut and dry policy that said you had to come before the select board. And so here, why not just limit it to the people who are in the police district? I think this past couple of weeks, John Moyers has had some interesting, and he's raised some great questions that in regards to what defines the police district. And so why do we then say, oh, well, in this case, we make an exception? And I have a problem with that because they're not paying. So, you know, why should they be entitled to have a say in, and Bruce just said, in how we handle the police department. And so there you go.
Lisa? Make sure you unmute yourself.
So I understand that, but for me personally, the reason I'm here tonight has nothing to do with how far our police department reaches out or doesn't reach out geographically. for me, I have been sitting home over these last few weeks, really, really wanting to contact somebody to say, we the people that shop downtown, that park downtown, that drive through town, that own businesses through town, in town, even though we don't live in the village, really, really want to find out how our current police department is meeting the growing challenges of social justice and all that Officer Nason just spoke of. To me, it's a critical community conversation that should not be bound by borders. Because just because I live out of the part of the town that pays for the police department doesn't mean that I'm not in town all the time. And I care about the town, and I care about what happens on Main Street. I care about the people, and I care about the situation that we're finding ourselves in right now that is incredibly powerful and unique. And I've been very, very happy that we now have a chief of police that feels like he's honest, that he's transparent, that he cares about the people of this town and is really trying to get to know everybody, whether we live on the outskirts or on the main street. So I would beg this group to not limit this conversation to just the people that live in town, because I think that would be an incredible disservice both to the town, the police department, Officer Nason, and the people that live here and work here and love this town. So I can't say anything stronger than that.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? Mike, go ahead.
I'll just echo what Elisa would say and point out that, you know, my sense from the goal of this meeting isn't to make directives. So in other words, I think that you want the biggest tent that you can so that we can draw from the strengths of everybody who's interested in improving, right, and building upon the strengths that we already have with our Bristol Police Department. And so from my perspective, whether you live in town or out of town, this meeting isn't making policy decisions. It's not dictating anything, but rather it's generating ideas about how we as a broad community can address a truly nationwide phenomenon, addressing how police and constituents interact. And so in that regards, I think inviting as many as we can to have as many voices is really the way to go here.
Thank you, Mike. John, go ahead.
I am a police district resident and taxpayer, but I would wholeheartedly endorse both Elisa and Mike's comments. I think this is not a policy meeting. There are no votes that are going to be taken, no budgets formed or voted on, and we do need to have a community-wide meeting. So I would endorse the big tent too. I mean, more voices are going to make a better decision over time. So I don't think we want to limit it now at the beginning. So that's one of my comments. Another comment I'd like to put out there as a separate thing is it seems like the select board ought to be having this meeting and not the chief. The chief can be a resource person for this meeting, can explain these new policies, for example, that you sent out a week or two ago, which I read, which read well to me. I thought the values incorporated in them were good, but if we're having a community-wide meeting, it seems appropriate to have the select board convene and host that. So that's a second comment. My last comment would be, I would hope before we start that we could get some basic information about what the police actually do, where time is spent, what certain costs, basic costs are. And have that as a fact sheet. You know, it doesn't need to be every fact, but let's get some basics so that we're all starting with the same understanding of the basic facts. What the budget is would be the first line. How many officers? What's the cost per man hour? You know, however you want to calculate that. What do we earn for renting the police to go outside the district as district budgets? You know, some basic facts. why have a meeting before we do that? We surveyed everybody before we had the conversation. That never struck me as a good idea. And it doesn't struck me as an idea to have a meeting that isn't informed by at least some basic facts. So could we draw those up before we have a public meeting?
So John, why would we need those facts if this public meeting only has to deal with the police policies? I mean, we're not talking about financials, I guess, for me to, especially if it's going to be townwide or whoever wants to come type of meeting.
Well, that's what I'm not sure. I mean, is this meeting to offer the chief a chance to explain those new the oaths and that sort of thing that was circulated, or is it about policing more generally?
I mean, my understanding is the meeting would be mostly about the policies that people are maybe concerned about, or that are the biggest ticket item that people are concerned about. So I don't see there be a discussion about funding or where the money comes from or how the money's spent at this point, at least at the initial one anyway. Bruce, do you see anything where we would be discussing that?
I think I was going to base it on what people, what kind of questions or concerns or comments they had when they came to the meeting, to see, I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've received very little feedback from the posts that we've made so far. We've had a couple of people come in. One person spent probably an hour talking about use of force in our training and things like that. Mm-hmm. Nobody's yet asked me about funding. I mean, the funding, it's in the budget. All of the where we get our funds from, it's all in our budget. I mean, we could explain that if people are asking questions, but my understanding is people wanted to have some kind of community discussion and about the police department. Mm-hmm. So I'm willing to talk about whatever they want.
Okay. Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you, Bruce. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this is more about listening to the community than it is about lecturing the community or trying to inform and go over the top with a lot of details that don't really feel to me connected to the very important conversation of how do we as a community relate to our police department, and how do they relate to us, and what are our concerns about that relationship. From my personal perspective, until Officer Nason took charge, I spent many years really feeling uncomfortable in my own town with the police department we had before. And I won't go into a lot of those reasons right now, but I was so excited to have a change. And now that we have somebody that we feel is open enough to have a conversation with us about the use of force, about how police officers are trained, about what sort of things are being added to that training regimen. Now that we know that we would like to be more openly acceptable of people of color, for example. What sort of relationship does our police department have with the social work department? Because not everything requires a policeman. Sometimes it requires a really incredible social worker. So I just feel like there's such a need to talk about these things without getting all hog-wired into who's going to pay for what and who's going to serve what part of the community and what are the funding and what's the money and all that. That's, to me, not what I want as a community person. I want to just have a conversation with my police people. I want to get to know their faces. I want to get to know their names. I want to know, when are they going to be in the bakery and we can sit and visit for a minute? Like, how do you personalize a police department to a community that's afraid of them and would really like to have this open line of communication? That's very different than numbers.
Okay. Anybody else? John?
With all due respect, Elisa, I do respect where you're coming from, and I think that part of like an open channel is great. Yes, but I not everybody knows that the police, but not everybody who might come to a meeting knows walking in the door that the police budget is $461,000. Not everybody knows. I don't know what percentage of police work is what sort of work. Is 95% of it this sort of work and 10% of it that sort of work? How does that break down? Where is the time spent? There are some basic facts that can inform any conversation from any angle. It doesn't have to be all hard budgetary numbers, but I'd like to know what percentage of time is in the district and out of district, whatever kind of call. I'd be interested in that. I would like to know, is 50% of the work that the police do dealing with violent gun crime? I know that's totally not the case, but I'm just making a number up. If it were, it would inform the conversation we would have as a community, as opposed to it being 0.5% of 1% is violent crime. Are we equipped for war and violent crime when that's the tail wagging the dog and 95 or 98 or whatever percentage of the work is totally not violent crime? We've heard from Front Porch Forum, people outside the district saying, I don't want to pay for it, but I really wish the Bristol Police Department would do non-urgent calls outside the village. I'd love to understand how that might work, But anyway, I think there's basic facts that don't spin things one way or the other, but inform a conversation that we can anticipate, and you hand out something at the beginning of a meeting, everybody's kind of on the same page in the most basic fundamentals. That's good.
Okay. So if we set, if we're going to set a date, I think I would pick a date, publicize it, figure out whether we want to be register people or have people sign up, have people do it through Zoom. But I would certainly do it after we do the voting in August, just for space purposes, I think, and timing. Because what is that, 3 weeks away, 2 weeks away? August 11th, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's not very far.
3 weeks.
So, Bruce, couple weeks, would that give us enough time to figure out a date and coordinate and get some information and be prepared?
Certainly. And I would really encourage anybody who has questions, if they want to reach out to me via email, phone call, or stop me on the street when they see me walking, I am happy to answer whatever questions I can.
Okay. All right. John?
One more quick one. So, Chief, I'd like to come in and look at the police logs, which my understanding is are public record. And I would love your help doing that, because I would like to somehow get a handle on what is getting done and what's not getting done that we might want done, or whatever. I just don't know. So if I could do that with your help, I'd love to make a date that worked for you to come in and take a stab at that.
Certainly. Reach out when you see me downtown, or give me a call and we'll set up a time.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So go ahead, Joel. Unmute.
Bruce, you were saying that you're in the middle of writing policy now on excessive force and things of that nature?
We're in the process of reviewing use of force in light of everything that's going on in the nation.
Okay.
It's being reviewed
John,
and-
looking at a calendar here, what if we pick a date, let's say 6 weeks from tonight? Gives everybody time to say, boy, that doesn't work for me, but I can move my schedule. 6 weeks, you ought to be able to move everything you need. Be 6 weeks from tonight, we could have a public forum at Holly Hall. Would that give you time, Bruce, to put all the stuff we want together for this forum?
Well, that depends on what you want as far as put together. I'll put whatever information that I can. I encouraged that we should probably do something sooner rather than later so we get the communication going with the public. I think at that first meeting, we might find out that, where their interest is or the majority of the interest, and we can focus on that first. But that's as far as the reviewing of the policies and procedures. Some of that's going to take a little time, but I'm willing to share what we have at this time and let you know what we're working towards. And so I'm open to just about anything.
I mean, I think that first meeting is just going to be a conversation starter to me. I mean, you may need to have the budget numbers available if somebody asks those questions, but my guess is they're going to ask mostly about policy. Is the state, they're still working on there, so your kind of hands are tied to do some stuff until they determine what they're going to change?
They're working on some stuff. All of us that are reviewing it and following what their concerns are, we're addressing those same concerns.
Okay.
I'm going to at some point establish a model policy where they want certain things addressed, and then obviously we can add to it if we want to. But all of us in law enforcement that have been reviewing this want to make sure that we have the best acceptable practices.
Okay.
For dates, given the time frame that Joel is suggesting, one possible date would be August 17th, which is in between the select board's regularly scheduled meetings. That would be after the election.
Yep, it's 5 weeks from tonight. That would work too, Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to do it sooner than that, then you're doing it before the election, which I would say August 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So either one of those two dates. Bruce, do you have a preference? 3 weeks or 5?
We can do something in 3 weeks to get the conversation started. I'm all for it.
Okay. The rest of you on the select board, August 3rd, it's one of our technically Mondays off. How does that look for you guys?
I will be on vacation that week and out of town, Michelle, so
Okay.
feel free to go ahead and get started.
Did we lose Peeker? We lost Peeker. Ian, you'll be around?
Yep, I'm here.
Darla?
I'm fine with that.
I have a meeting for work, but I'll reschedule.
Okay. Lisa, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that if there's anything anyone from the public can do to help make this happen, I would be willing to do that. So
It'll just be a matter of getting the word out and getting people aware and hopefully joining in the conversation. Okay. John?
We'll also have to double check to make sure there's no conflict. I don't
Right.
think there would be any conflict for that night on that part of the month, but
You'll check.
check.
Okay. John, did you have something you want to say?
So I'm just still not clear. Is this the select board hosting or the police department hosting?
It's going to be a combo.
The town. It's the town.
And who? What would the select board members who are present? What would your hope be for this meeting? Is there a bullet point or a headline that might? I mean, I don't think you could track people very much with a very amorphous pitch on a meeting. I think if you're going to talk about something really specific, then you have a chance of drawing people in. But if it's just a meeting about policing, I don't know, maybe that does draw people or not. But to me, it just seems that somebody, whoever convenes the meeting, should frame the meeting and give something give something for people to grab a hold of. I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Joel, did you have something you want to say?
I guess, John, you asked I want to hear what the people have to say. Me, it's just informational. I want to listen to our voters and listen to the townspeople. I want to hear the good and the bad and the ugly. Peeker, did we lose you? We don't have you on Zoom.
Yeah, I don't have any internet and I don't have any cell service because I don't have any internet.
Okay, I'm going to keep you on speakerphone if you need to get in. Sorry, Michelle.
That's okay.
This phone won't last only about 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's why I didn't come on this one.
Okay. You want me to call you on your cell?
Tell him to go into town.
Yes.
Oh.
Without
That's right. Okay. Well, I got you on your home phone, so.
Yeah, and like I said, this phone, the battery only lasts about 5 minutes. So.
All right.
Tell him to head into town to the town office, Joel. Maura, did you want to say something?
I did. I just wanted to suggest that that the select board look into maybe having an outside facilitator for this meeting. And I think it will be a series of meetings, I'm assuming, to kind of move this conversation to help frame it. And also, I'm sure there are many communities that are having these conversations, and it might be good to kind of tap into some of that expertise and knowledge. I really appreciated having an outside facilitator for the community meetings that around our schools that we had last year, and that was super helpful. So I respectfully make that suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, go ahead, Lisa.
I heartily agree with what Maura just said about the outside facilitator. I think that's incredibly important. But if you're looking for a way to frame this so that people come, I think you need to say that it's a community conversation with the Bristol Police Department about policies and procedures in these changing times. It has to say something like that. It has to be about a community conversation. It's not just a meeting to inform people, but a meeting to listen to people. That has to be conveyed or people won't come, because if it's all about, trying to go down all these tangent roads, people are not going to show up. There's not many of us here tonight, and it was on Front Porch Forum. So I think it has to be framed as a community conversation.
Okay. John?
I'm sorry, you've been very generous with your time, so I'll try to be brief. I agree. I didn't find myself objecting to anything Lisa said there. I liked her suggested frame. To me, that's at least enough of a frame to see what we're talking about, or to give people a sense of it. But, we've never had the select board really lead this conversation in an effective way. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. You did appoint a commission last year that if you were feeling like, if the select board was feeling like it's not another meeting you need, maybe that commission could take the lead for you as your designees, and make it clear to people that this is the beginning of a conversation that's going to get serious, and try to suss stuff out and really come up with something. Because we surveyed first and we asked questions first and didn't really dig for any information last year. We surveyed an uninformed, undiscussed, undebated public and got something of marginal value out of it, of course. I would love to see a more enthusiastic treatment of this by the select board, something with some more haste. I mean, I think that, anyway, some urgency, maybe not urgency, but I don't know, but I've said enough. I'll leave it at that. I'm sorry.
Well, but John, your task in that committee was very different than what we're talking about now. Your task was specifically to look at expanding the police district townwide and whether the public wanted that or not. That was the single goal that you had, and that came to an end, and that committee ended. What we're looking at now with this particular discussion is obviously very different. The issues that are happening now nationwide had not been brought to the forefront as they are now when that committee was doing the work that it was doing last year. So I think those are two different things. And reading your Front Porch Forum posts, it seems like the financial aspect is the key thing that you'd like to focus on. And I do think that's a different discussion than this discussion about the police department. And I think they do, not to say that either aren't as important as each other, but I think that they don't intertwine. They do, but I think the start of this is just something different at the moment. than the financial side.
Thanks, Ian. Okay. Any more discussion? Otherwise, we'll go ahead, Val.
So if we pursue trying to get a facilitator on board, that might affect the date,
Right.
his availability.
Mhm.
So we'll look into that.
Right.
Well, what does the select board feel about a facilitator? Shall we pursue that?
Does anybody know of anyone that would be able to do this on that short notice?
I think it's a,
I don't know about short notice, but was one person who offered to assist us in that way if we needed him. I can reach back out to him to see if he would be available on that date, and I could let you know.
Okay. You want to let Val know, and then we can move forward with that.
Yeah, I would recommend we not toss names around now. Just
Right.
go offline about that and see who's available. But just to affirm that the select board is generally on board with using a facilitator or bringing a facilitator on board for this.
Yes, I would support that.
I was going to say, I think it's a good idea. Yep. Okay.
Darla? Oh, thumbs up. I see the thumbs
Yeah.
up.
Peeker, okay with that, Joel, or?
I see that Joel is.
Yes. Yep.
He is. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next thing. If everybody's good with that. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the discussion.
Thank you.
Park use application, Bobcat Cafe food truck at Bartlett Falls, intermittently. Did I? Yeah.
So this application was submitted with the hope that it would be reviewed at the select board's June 29th meeting, but there was not sufficient public notice. So here it is. They understand that trash will be a significant concern. And I understand from our brief discussion at that last meeting when the select board was deliberating whether to add it to the agenda, reference was made to the fact that vendors had been located up at Bartlett Falls in the past, and that trash was either managed well or it wasn't managed well, but it was a concern then too. The town of Bristol does not have any policies in place that apply to vendors on public property in this way. So there are no particular standards or guidelines to follow. So I'd be interested to know what select board's recollections were or thoughts on this proposal.
I really have a lot of concerns about parking, you know, people walking in and out of there with the food. There'd be a lot more people. I mean, I just drove out there the other day, and I mean, they park everywhere. You put a food truck in there, and I don't know how they're going to control who's parking where and where the people are going to walk. I mean, now, to me, they not only have to have trash receptacles, they're going to have a food compost bin, they're going to have a recycle bin, because that's all required now. I mean, the intermittent thing kind of bothers me too, because we never know when they're going to be up there.
Good weather.
Yeah. But if we're gonna let them, then they are gonna do insurance. I think you really meant to put on there $1 million, not 100,000 right now.
I'll be honest with you. I found the City of Montpelier's vendors ordinance, and I was looking for criteria and guidelines that they have in their ordinance, and they require, that's their language for what they require of insurance. So I just said, well, okay, copy, paste.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always require $1 million, so
Okay.
I think that's what I would put on there if we're gonna do that. But
If-
rest of the select board, questions, thoughts?
And the other option too is to, if the select board's inclined to approve this with conditions, that one condition could be a time limit, that there's a window of time from this month,
Whatever date it's approved till.
August or whatever, and revisit how it's going.
Yeah. Ian, go ahead.
I want to support this endeavor. I think it's a good one, but I have serious reservations about public safety at this location. I would be less concerned if it was at another public park like Sycamore Park, just because of parking and sort of maneuverability of people. The Bartlett Falls location has no real parking areas. And if you're putting a food truck at the bottom of the hill, you're walking down the road to get to it. And I have a lot of concerns about that. It's already dangerous, let alone just getting parking and getting into the water and getting down there, let alone putting a food truck there and have more people traversing the road to get down there to get food and then possibly go back. So that's my biggest concern. I'm also worried about trash. I think it would be very difficult to monitor how much trash people would leave there. People already leave trash there without food trucks, just bringing stuff in. And so I think if you put something like that in place, I think it'd be very difficult to monitor the entire stretch. And in their emails that they've sent, they've said that they will try their best, but obviously they can't control everything. But I think if you're supplying food and containers to people who are then moving up and down, a half-mile stretch of water, I think you do need to control that. That's your responsibility because you're providing that to people. So those are my two main concerns. The biggest one I think is public safety. I just don't think it's a safe area at all to do this kind of event.
Joel?
Well, I guess I have to agree with Ian. I really do want to support this, but I wondered, have we, in the years I've been on the board, and Peker can even relate to many more years, I mean, I know we've had a few interests of food trucks want to move up there, but we haven't had the public say, boy, I wish you had a place up there we could eat. I haven't heard that from the people who swim that go up there. And I don't go there very often, except when we have to get somebody out of the water, like we did 2 weeks ago on the 4th. But I don't hear people say, boy, I wish there was a place to eat up here. You ought to have a little snack bar. I haven't heard that in all the 60 odd years I've lived in Bristol. So I agree with Ian. When it's really busy up there, they're walking in the road, they're parked barely off the edge or halfway on the road. And the chief knows they or the state go up and get calls all the time about can't get through. So, and there's right now it probably be till September 1st is 7 weeks, and we're halfway through. So I don't know. I got mixed emotions about approving it.
Darla?
Knowing that there have been food trucks up there in the past and we haven't had, I don't know that the food truck brings more people. I'm not so concerned about more people coming because the Bobcat's there. I think the trash I agree wholeheartedly with the trash issue and with parking. We all know parking is crazy in that stretch. So I also know that this is a community restaurant that's trying to make ends meet in any way they can in difficult circumstances. So I absolutely want to help them make this happen if at all possible. And I'm wondering if it can't be something that happens with a trial period, we give them an opportunity to try it for 2 weeks and reassess at that time, if that might be something that could happen. That's one way I'm thinking that we might be able to accommodate and reassess with some real knowledge. But I don't foresee there being more people being there because there's food. I'm just going on,
Darla, you muted yourself.
Sorry, I was getting ready to finish. I just said I'm just basing that on knowing that what was there in the past as far as food. I don't remember it calling more people to the area necessarily. Of course, it might when something was established, but we wouldn't know that until we gave it a try.
Okay. Anybody else have comments? Dash. I know you're not Mike.
Yeah, hi. I just had some personal things I want to say about Bartlett Falls. I'm on the Conservation Commission, but just a personal comment. I am concerned about the increased usage up there, especially parking safety. The police blotter of the Addy Indy said that on June 20th, that there were many tickets given out up there. So we know there are patrolling the area. There is like there's a record of something happening that it's not just anecdotal, right? We actually have ticketed cars up there. We see erosion on a lot of the paths happening. People are walking up anywhere they want. There's a lot of runoff there. We're seeing increased usage because so many parks are closed, museums are closed, everyone's going out into nature, which is great, but now we see increased usage, right? And I don't know if I don't believe there is any kind of a management plan, any sense of how we can make this safe for everyone, for the people, for the environment, for the river. And maybe it's time to think about, should this be a park? Should we do surveys on parking? Should we try to make it safer? Should we make it better? I think this has been a spot that we ignore a lot, right? We talk about like Eagle Park or Sycamore Park, but what about Bartlett Falls? People in Montreal know about Bartlett Falls, but in Bristol, we don't talk about it in professional capacity. And I was just wondering what you thought about that.
Not sure. It's good thoughts. Lisa?
Hi, I just really want to say I have to go, and I really thank you for the meeting, and I look forward to the next steps as soon as we get them. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Elisa. John, did you want to say something?
Yes, please. Thank you. I really worry about the trash too. Nobody's going to stand next to the truck and eat and throw the garbage away. They're all going to carry it off and eat, and then odds are it's not going to get carried back. So if I could get past the public safety concerns, which I can't, there would have to be some requirement for somebody dispensing disposable dinnerware to go out and collect it, to even get me to think about this. And I hope the town would think about that. If the response on a particular vendor is, well, that would make it not worth our while, then why would we let them do that? If it's too hard for them to collect the garbage they're putting out and making money on, then we shouldn't allow it. Mm-hmm. So there should be some kind of requirement that if you're going to sell stuff that's in throwaway disposable containers, that you can't just have a garbage can at the window. You got to go out after your shift and collect your garbage.
And if I recall correctly, the previous one that was up there did that. They went up and down and picked up garbage that just wasn't their own.
Right, and that's great. This is an old study, but there was a study 25 years ago in New York, and some percentage of what percentage of public garbage cans is fast food restaurant stuff. And it was like over 50% of every public trash can in New York. The public, that's an externality. That's a private for-profit business giving the public the responsibility of dealing with the stuff that they sold for a profit. That to me is not right by the public way. If people want to make money, fine, great. But don't put your waste off on the public till to support. So that's one thought. Another thought is, maybe having a food truck at Sycamore Park or Eagle Park would spread some people out. Mm-hmm. Maybe it would give them a place to go, and maybe they could create a scene if they start showing up at one of those places where there's plenty of room to distance and plenty of room to, whatever, park and walk around. Maybe wherein those other two parks are maybe slightly underutilized, except on the hottest days, maybe it would create a little cool thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that could be suggested to them. Anyway, thanks.
Okay. Go ahead, Ian.
Bruce, can I have your opinions versus public safety for that location?
Parking will always be an issue there. That would require us to probably make a few more trips to that area. Other than that, that would be my biggest concern is parking.
Mm-hmm. Which is already a concern.
Yes.
And right now they're parking all the way up to Eagle Park.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Joel?
I guess hearing some comments, and Michelle, you said our older vendor that we had a few years ago, and I remember approving that night, and Peeker commented that, we've set a precedent, number one, but they policed themselves and they probably picked up trash that wasn't even theirs.
Right.
In hindsight, that might, because we know there's trash there now. Mm-hmm. And Eric knows that or not, that there's trash there. And there has, people bring stuff, they get here in town and go up to the river and sit and eat it, maybe a pizza or this, and throw their box wherever. So would it be a good thing if Darla says to give it a couple of weeks, and if they police themselves and they pick up other trash that even not their stuff, if they find a McDonald's wrappers and stuff like that, they pick up that. That's a win for us, keeping the park clean. It is a beautiful spot, and everybody knows about it, not just in good old downtown Addison County. They know about it all the way to New England.
Mm-hmm. Well, the question becomes is like, okay, how far up are you wanting them to clean up trash? Do they have to go all the way up to Eagle Park?
You mean, yeah, no, I mean, just Bartlett's from where they go, where it ends and where it begins, basically.
Which is where? Circle Current down?
No. I mean, you can definitely see where you walk in to Bartlett's and where the what they refer to as Flat Rock, where they drive off, and where the falls are. From their falls down to where the old pipe used to come out for the electrical plant, and down there where they got the stones, or at least that area. I'm dating myself here.
No, well, I know where you're talking about. So I know Darla does. Ian might not, but he probably does. So what do you guys think? Give them 2 weeks? Put the onus on them, they have to clean up the trash?
Yes, I think that would be very important in terms of trash. And I do think it needs to be perhaps a little higher than where Joel suggests, because it is, it's a well-traversed area. People go everywhere there, or into as many areas as they can. Especially now when you're at a point where you're supposed to be socially distancing, you're gonna be traveling further up that area. But I do like, I do like the idea of the trial. I think it's something that perhaps we need to get a date from them when they're going to do it. And we'll maybe have, if Bruce is available, to be able to sort of monitor that area and just see how their time there works. And is it just a parking issue? Is it actually people in the road walking down? I have a concern about that, just people in the road as well. But if we're able to grant this, for 2 weeks, be able to monitor, get feedback on that, and then go forward to see if it's something that can continue, especially since it seems like the select board has already set a precedent with other vendors being there. I feel it's hard to go back on that. But if we were able to monitor it, that seems like a good way of going forward.
I mean, my only other thing I would say is that they really need to block off space for the people to walk up. They're just don't let them walk up to the whole thing, but have like, I don't know, cones or something so people can't park and run into them. I mean,
right.
Go ahead, Bill.
Who would monitor the trash afterwards to see that they did what we're asking them to do?
Are we just limiting them to Saturday and Sunday? Was that, I can't remember if that was there.
I think it was just whenever, I think.
Do we want to limit them to a Saturday and Sunday? I mean, that's when most people are there, I think.
I mean, knowing that it's going to be somewhat weather dependent, if it's a rainy Saturday and Sunday, that doesn't give them much of an opportunity. I don't know for these first 2 weeks that I would limit it. I would give them an opportunity to be there, when weather permitted, and we can reassess from there. I mean, I don't know that their plan is to be there every day. They said intermittently.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
I mean, Michelle, I think it's up to them. If it's a beautiful Friday afternoon, they may go up, and because if it's the weatherman saying rainy showers on Saturday and Sunday, they may go up and try. It does get busy. People go up after work, early afternoon, go swimming, and it's up to them whether they want to go up and sell one hot dog or whatever they're selling, burritos or whatever they're selling.
Well, can we say, let us know when you're going to be up there? That way one of us maybe can go up and check, see, okay, how bad is the trash after they've gone? Have they done their job?
I think it'd also be good to be able to tell Bruce when they're going to be up there.
Right.
Yeah, I think if we
Makes sense,
approve it,
Val?
we'd want a little bit of notice.
And the notice would go to Bruce and me, or Bruce and?
Yeah, I would say Bruce and you, and then you can let us know, because if, you know, if I'm around, I'm happy to go up and take a look after they're gone.
You want a motion then, Michelle?
Yep, I guess so, with all those conditions.
I'll make a motion that we allow the Bobcat 2-week trial period to have a food truck at Bartlett's with notification within 12 hours to the, I'm going to say 12, or by that day, notification to Bristol PD that they will be the day, you know, they'll be going up that day,
Bristol PD and town administrator.
the town administrator. And they must police the area, Bartlett Falls swimming area that's available to the public use. I'll leave it at that. So that stretches up and up the river and down the river.
We also want to add and abide by all COVID restrictions. Is that necessary?
Well, I think they put that in their application that they would be doing that anyway, so.
I assumed they did, but
For the application, you know,
okay.
Yep.
And the insurance.
Yes, the $1 million policy
$1 million policy.
with us as an insured. Okay. Any more discussion? Oh, did I get a second?
No.
Second.
Okay. Ian seconded. Any more
So-
discussion?
So for the 2-week trial, then is it safe to say that at the select board's next meeting, this will be revisited if they want to reapply?
I'm assuming if they start like this week, then that'll be 2 weeks, and yeah, we can, I would say that would be fair statement. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
No.
Joel, is Peeker still on, or is he?
Yeah, he's still here, Peter. You agreed with
Okay.
that? Yeah, he agreed with
Yep.
that.
Okay.
Got him right here.
Next, Bristol Water Commission, continued deliberation of March water bill appeal, 21 Spring Street. Okay.
So this item was continued from the previous meeting with the hope that some additional information might be available through Jill and Cyrus in their evaluation of the situation. And they're here with us tonight.
Let's hear it, Jill.
What did you guys do, and what didn't you do, and what's your thoughts? And
Tell us all about it.
Cyrus can start because the story of that particular meter goes back a couple of years.
My particular thoughts are, he's smart enough to calculate having a 10-ounce glass of water every 13 seconds. He knew his meter wasn't working for several years. And I just don't think we should wait. I don't think we should give.
Mhm.
So he had a meter that wasn't working for a number of years. It was replaced probably about a year ago. By the time he got his second, third quarterly bill, he had a use charge that was higher than normal. We went back in, we did, because he said, whoa, whoa, whoa. So we went back in, we were able to read 35 days of data. The 35 days of data. Jen, did we see any high use on that bill, on that data? No. So the meter is magically working now and the water use is lower, but yet a high bill probably changed some type of behavior. Whether something was fixed, whether something was replaced, that's nothing that we have records on. That's a homeowner's issue.
Mhm.
What they may have done, I can tell you that there have been handfuls of other users that have had really high water bills in which they go through their plumbing in their house and they find a leaking toilet, a dripping sink, a particular water using appliance that needs to be replaced. They fix it, their water use goes down, they're happy. I'm not a meter. I don't know if meters have ever overread ever. If anything, they underread, especially old meters that don't function.
and old meters that have dirt in them that make the gears not move. These new meters, it's just flow through. It just flows through an opening. So
It's a velocity meter.
it's a
basically.
velocity meter. So again, I'm not a meter. I don't know if a meter could ever misfunction in that way. You would think if they did, it would happen more often with no consequence, meaning no thing that had to change to make it stop reading so much.
Right. We haven't had any other meters. We haven't had any problems with any of our new meters, have we?
No.
The only problem you have with them is when people don't insulate and they freeze and they pop. That we've had those, a couple of those happen.
Yeah.
I did reach out to Craig at EJ Prescott in reference to a longer data time read.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He said that the only way to do that would be able to, you go in the meter and you change how often the meter takes a look at the data. So right now out of the box, they're set up every hour they take a read. So if you wanted to stretch that out to maybe get 37, 38 days, you'd have to take that read every 2 hours or every 3 hours, and you'd have to go in with software and change that. And that was the only way they told me I could stretch it over 35 days.
But we wouldn't, he was talking 90 days back, right? There was no way we would have 90 days.
Correct.
Right.
So they're quarterly bills. So I think another point in his letter was that he's home and he would have heard it, but the quarter that the bill was for was pre-COVID, before people were working from home. So I mean, I just think it's all relative. I don't think that it's not a giant bill. There have been bills from owners that have been thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not our decision, and we have no hard feelings against anybody at all. It's just a matter of what you guys want to do.
Okay, Joel.
So good. Oh, Jill, sorry.
Oh, sorry, wait a second, Ian. Go ahead, Joel.
Yep.
Couple of things. Jill and Cyrus, as you know, I know the guys in Middlebury, and I talked with them about this the other day, and they are stating just what you're stating. Meters don't overread.
It's virtually impossible.
And the second thing, Ty, you said that right now you put a meter in and you set it for an hour read, and it gives you 30 days of info.
Yes.
Yep. From the moment it's read, you get 35 days in 1 hour increments.
Cool. So if you put it at a 3 hour increment, could it give you 90 days?
Apparently.
I guess it could, but if you're only taking a read every 3 hours.
You know, what I'm trying to say is, in that 3 hour period, you started leaking. We need to identify it down to an hour, but you said, okay, on April 1st of 2020, between noon and 3 o'clock, you had some major water you started losing, and then it continued to lose until we found the leak. I just want to know why we couldn't do 3 hours and do we really need to know every hour? So only 30 days. Some people are saying, boy, I wish I'd known.
That's just how it comes stock, is my understanding.
But we could change it though, Si.
What I was told is yes, but I'm going to have to look into it further, just like anything else. So it was one of those deals. He was reluctant to kind of let me know that you could go in there and change it. And it'll take some time with one of the census folks to get it done.
And then the last question I have for you was, when you did finally get in and get the new meter put in, I remember as a kid, Eddie Burke had a real estate office in that garage, and he had a toilet in there. And I'm wondering if, because it was between December 10th and April 10th, March 10th, did you see a line that went outside towards the east out of that basement or anything?
There was water lines heading in that direction. He has a room sealed off in his basement that I was not interested in going into or asking about.
No, not here to. I just was trying to wonder whether
it looks like he's got water line headed that direction, but I don't know where it goes. I don't know if there's anything out in that garage of his.
Yeah, and it's not our concern. I'm just trying to figure out if there was a water line that headed that way, might have had the leak that he didn't know because it wasn't in the basement. It was actually
impossible.
That's what I'm trying to get to that, trying to get some investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ian, go ahead.
So I think in a broader scope, I think finding out if we can do 90 days of data, even if it's at 3 or 4 hour increments, I think would be very useful, especially in cases like this, if we can record that data and be able to have it available before the meter rewrites over. And I think Jill's right. If it's 3 or 4 hours, I think given even a leak like this, you could still, looking at the data, it seems like you could still see a pattern of when it started and when it stopped potentially. So I think that would be really helpful. For this particular case, it seems like, so the new meter, after the old meter was replaced, the new meter was put in, it read correct for 2 readings. It was accurate. It's now gone up and had this higher reading, and now it's back down to the normal reading. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. So it doesn't seem like it's a faulty meter.
No, it seems
that
like
it's,
somebody used some water, or the
okay.
faucet was left on, or a toilet was left to run, and nobody noticed it.
Okay.
Or a bad
And
flapper.
so Michelle, yeah, Michelle, so what has been the policy in the past before I was a select board member in terms of questions like this? What does the select board usually do?
Our policy has always been, it runs through the meter, you have the bill and you gotta pay it. We may waive penalties and interest, but the bill's yours.
Speaker's got something to say, Michelle.
Go ahead.
Speaker, go ahead.
Yeah, the policy's always been any water that goes through the meter is your water. And it's typically, you know, that water can't, that meter, the numbers can't go up if the water doesn't go through it. So there's no way it can overread for water going through. The water went through the meter, it's their responsibility. I'm sorry, but that's been our policy, and that will continue to be our policy as far as I'm concerned. Water went through the meter, it's their bill.
You guys,
Yep, I
Yep,
heard.
that was fine. Yep.
Okay. All right. We good with that?
So
everybody
do we need to
good
make
with
a
We usually
motion
make a
or a
motion,
decision?
Val? Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also you're acting as the water commission.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
put our hat on.
Yeah, got that
So-
water
so
commission hat on. Mm-hmm.
Would the motion be to deny the claim? What would be the wording?
Or
for
make a motion in the affirmative and not approve it.
that? Wait, say that again?
So you would have to say, I make a motion that we approve his request for credit, and then we would have to vote it down.
Or we make a motion to that the 21 Spring Street residents owes the water department that was properly billed. Is that's
And
an
we'll waive any interest and penalties, but he's got to pay the bill.
penalty?
I have no problem with waiving the penalty, interest and penalties.
You want to make that motion then, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, so somebody
I'll
want to
second
second
that.
it?
Yep, I'll second it.
Joel, will you phrase how you just said it real quick? The beginning part?
That we bill 21, the residents at 21,
One Springs,
the amount billed by the water department for December 10th through March 10th, right, Jennifer? That's with the billing dates.
And waive all penalties, right?
Waive all
we'll
penalties.
waive penalties and interest.
Yeah, Peter made all that motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ian seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Raise, say aye. Okay. All right. So keeping our water commissioner hat on. Next, request from Jackman's of Bristol, credit on their water bill.
Michelle, because this is a nephew, I'll be leaving the room. I won't be voting on this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you got to leave Peeker there.
Yeah, whoops, I'll have to leave him off mute then.
Yep. So, Jill and I need to ask a question. We went down there on a road trip, so I know there's a shutoff valve, and they put in a new meter, right? Or they put in a new something.
Okay, so the way that their service works over there is there's a meter pit. And
Right.
I believe their service is coming off from the small road. It's a really weird spot. It's not-
Francis Place.
Yes.
Francis Place. Yep.
He hit the curb stop after the meter pit. So that curb stop exists for his convenience to be able to shut off his whole lot
Okay.
off that one curb stop.
Okay.
It's not Bristol Water Department's fault that somebody went back there and plowed when it was soft and ripped it up.
That was my question, because that water shut off, he actually needs that. It's not like it's something extra.
No, that's his.
Right.
That's his. It's after the meter, so he owns that.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Like that.
Yeah, I did see it. I just was a little unclear whether that had to be there or not, since he had the pit, but okay.
He's not technically allowed in the pit. The pit belongs to the town's water department, just
Right.
like any of the consecutives, like KTP or the other trailer park that's down on Rockydale. The meter pit is owned by the town, but only the town is allowed in that meter pit.
Okay.
The town's water department. Once it gets past that, there's a bunch of curb stops that go to different homes and trailers inside of those different, and Woodland Apartments is the same. There's a meter pit. Again, it's owned by the town/water department. You get past that, those leaks are their problem. Those curb stops are their problem. It's that same thing. It's super unfortunate. It was a bunch of water.
Yeah.
I would say mark it and don't plow there.
Yeah. Put a big stake.
Yeah, I got to mark a lot of those things so nobody hits them.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Darlene? Peeker?
Nope.
After the meter, the water's his. I'm sorry. I mean, that's what we've done with everybody. We even did it to select board members, so I can't. We've set precedent, and I'm not. We've made it very clear that you need to pay attention to what's going on with your water.
Yeah. Okay. So that a motion?
Yes.
That is bill is his bill.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Jolie can come back in now, not that he knows.
Will he come back? I wonder.
Right.
Oh,
He's back.
He's back.
So just to clarify a little bit, if necessary, that the request was for a credit on
he's gone.
bill. They already paid the bill.
Yep.
And so they're looking for a future credit. So basically, the motion effectively said no credit.
We're denying your request for a credit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Any interest or penalties?
He already paid the bill, so there is no interest or penalties.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Did they pay it when it was due?
Yes.
I'm saying yes, Speaker.
Okay. Next, ready to go next? Okay, we're still on our commissioner hat. Bristol Water Department. Development of a fiscal year 2021 infrastructure maintenance plan.
We're doing number 6, Speaker, on the agenda. Bristol Water Department development of 21 infrastructure and maintenance plan. Okay.
I'll see if I can find that.
That's what it is. The Bristol Water Department development of a fiscal year 21 infrastructure maintenance plan. Valerie gave us a bunch of stuff.
Tell them it has to do with replacing the
Hydrants
hydrants and
some other stuff. Okay.
Yeah, so we were asked in preparation for planning for the water budget for the year, what are some projects? And we had discussions with some of the select board members about that and other people within the town, but it's that same question of we have approved budgets to do some maintenance on the water system. And what we want to do is be able to take that plan and put it into action. So instead of coming to next March and saying, oh, hey, I know we wanted to do stuff and we budgeted, but we didn't act upon it. And so nothing is done and there's like 2 months to do it. So we're saying, okay, we have a plan. We'd like to be able to replace 2 hydrants, put in a flushing hydrant, repair curb stops and valve boxes as we find that there are those that are broken that aren't part of the construction project. That's completely different. That need to be repaired in town, and try to just stay on top of things and be proactive. So that's what we're looking for, is just to say, do we have permission to act upon that plan? The team being the Bristol Highway Department and BTOMs, just go ahead and get those projects done and utilize a portion of that budget in doing so.
Any questions from the select board about those projects?
Just, Michelle, Jill, I know we've talked about Elm Street till we're blue in the face, and I know you did a complete line, and there's no leaks in the line. And but did I see in here you got one repair to a residence? I saw.
Not yet. So what we're saying is that we need to probably spend a good part of a day just listening to the services on the street if you want us to. We can choose, you can choose not to. You can say, nope, I don't want to do that. It's been correlated. Just replace the hydrant.
So,
but it's up to you guys. We want to make sure that we are listening to you guys as the committee to say, or not the committee, the commission. Do you wish for us to go ahead and listen to the services on Elm Street and assure that there are no service leaks on that street before it's paved?
Of course.
So question, didn't we have them go through and listen for leaks?
Yep, we had them correlate, which is a listening devices that are kind of shaped like a soda can that got placed.
It's like an EKG, really.
Yes, it's EKG for the water system. They couldn't hear any leaks on Elm, Taylor, or Munsell, because those were the three streets this spring we were told may be paved. So we said, okay, let's get on top of this. Let's make sure there's no leaks.
So good. So if you did that, doesn't that mean you also that would have heard any service leaks or not?
Yes, it would
So
have.
if you've already done that, why would we do it again?
I don't know. That's our question to you guys too, but it's like, if you don't believe the correlation for whatever reason, you want something that's more micro level, we can do that, but it is redundant.
And it's time consuming.
And it's time consuming, and we want to say, and leaks are at a point in time. So leaks can happen whenever they decide they're going to happen. They tend to happen from frost in the winter or from big trucks hitting things they shouldn't, or other pieces of equipment, or age.
If the leak is on their side of the curb stop, they also have the decision whether or not they want to fix it.
Right.
So we can't force that hand, right? So it's, hey, this is leaking. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Well, you mean to tell me if I have a leak out here on my 3/4 inch copper coming in, and it's before my meter, but after the curb stop, yeah, the board we can deny them water if they don't. We can't allow that to just continue to gush out of the lawn or.
Then we got a couple for you.
I believe, Valerie, I'm correct on that. The water says any excess use or something there. Peeker, help me with that language. There's something in the water thing that it says that we can shut people off if they don't want to fix their repair or repair their line that's leaking.
I haven't reviewed the language in a while, but I do believe there is a provision in the ordinance that empowers the Water Commission to require a repair in some way.
Well, if you got somebody like that, make a list and maybe we'll be able to deal with them then.
We may have, there's one in particular that we may want to discuss.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there's a couple that, yep, they've been going on for a bit, and there's definitely a lack of a moving forward point with that particular user to repair that side of the service.
Okay.
That's in a different location though, right, Jill?
Yes, that's in a whole different location, but
Yeah.
we do know.
I mean, my personal opinion is I just don't feel we need to redo something you already did.
But Valerie, I thought I read in your TA report and through this development, you gave us the prices, then you said there was one house line at Elm Street that you wanted to repair and unknown cost on that.
I think if a leak was determined, then it would be.
Oh, so you haven't been in contact, nobody on Elm Street has been in contact with you to say, we'd like to repair a line, have our line replaced.
Nope, and we don't know of any known leaks on Elm Street. There are certainly little saggy spots, but those can happen for a variety of reasons, and the correlation showed no leaks. So we just wanted to say, we want to put our time and your money into the best places that are in your desire. We want you guys to make those decisions and for us to just carry out the plan.
I think that was more of a contingency.
What's that, Peeker? Do you trust Peeker wants to know, do you trust the correlation?
I trust the correlation. Yes, I do. I found a lot of leaks from correlations.
Okay. Yeah, Speaker, he said.
Okay. Well, they're the ones we look to for advice. So if they trust it, I can't see wasting money on trying to fix something that they don't feel is leaking.
Okay.
It wasn't the day they correlated. You know, that's the thing about leak detection is that
It's a snapshot in
it's
time.
a snapshot in time, and it's that moment in time. So if something occurs over the winter, or if a line ages to a particular point and it decides to give out, and that's a year or 2 years or 5 years from now, that wasn't when that was correlated. So unfortunately, it's not going to unage the water system. It's not going to keep leaks from happening later, but at least we've got, you know, some confidence in putting, when the road crew puts pavement down and not thinking that 2 seconds later, we're going to have 5 leaks.
Okay.
Ian, go ahead.
I had a query about it's not what we're talking about, but it's the user that has a leak. Aren't they paying for that leak?
No.
Is there a reason they're not, even though it's after the curb stop?
It's leaking in the ground. So that water line that's coming from the curb stop to them, it can't get to the meter because it's dumping out of their line into the dirt. That's like 90% of what we have going on in town is those like old lines that we find sometimes.
And there's still quite a bit of galvanized in the ground.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
So
fine. If you're fine with the correlation, I think that's fine. I don't see why would need to redo it. I mean, you could spend all your time just doing that to create snapshots at certain time periods, and you probably know of places, times during the year that it's maybe better to do snapshots than other times. So I trust what you're telling us.
Yeah, not when it's raining. When it's raining, in the winter,
Right.
covered in snow, and when it's raining are the worst times to correlate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's quite fortunate to have Vermont Rural Water as a resource because they don't cost anything.
So do we need a motion as the water commissioners to give them permission to move forward with their projects that are part of their budget?
We wanted to just make sure that we were doing what you guys wanted us to do.
I'll make that motion, Michelle. So it gives them, they know they got some direction.
Okay.
And that we approve the infrastructure maintenance plan developed by VTUMS.
Yep.
Okay. And Ian seconded. Any more discussion? Go
Just
ahead, Val.
Quick comment. I did a quick review and a word search of the water ordinance and on the words repair and leak. And there's nothing about water line repair. Talked about meter repair and replacement, and it's the responsibility of the customer to repair and replace the meter, but nothing about water line leaks.
We'll have to look at it a little bit more. There's got to be something in there, but we'll deal with that later. Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise their hands.
All right.
Okay. Any opposed? No, motion carried. Cool.
So one more quick question.
Yep.
Maybe we should just discuss it with Valerie, but a food for thought is that it works really nicely for us to partner with the highway department when they're available. Does it appear that they'll have a little bit of availability for a couple of days, or does it appear that they're just booked right up solid?
Eric's here. Can he answer that?
I would hope so.
Oh, Jill, we could probably make the time.
Eric had mentioned in passing that, man, if you want to do all these projects in town and have our equipment to use during these projects, if you just block out a week, we'll just go like crazy and won't have to mobilize from here to there to there to here, because some of the stretches of town are further away. So, cool.
There you go. You two coordinate.
Thanks, Eric. We appreciate it.
And folks recognize that when the Public Works Department is working on water line stuff, they're not doing the other projects that the select board also wants done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
As long as we know that.
We just want to kind of say thank you, and that it is really cost effective. So I think it's
good team
really beneficial for the water system and for the town.
Thank you, Jill and Cy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Good night.
Next, Village Paving and Main Street Sidewalk Project Update.
Well, things are moving along, and night work is continuing. Sidewalk work is continuing. The bollards are going to be installed by the fire hydrants this week, probably. One area that, if you've had a chance to glance at the report, there are a couple of panels down on East Street that we are interested in exploring having the contractor mobilize and replace while they're here, and just have that billed to the Sidewalk Reserve Fund.
So this was my suggestion, since I walk down there most days. So those 2 panels have been asphalt for the past maybe 3 years.
Which 2 are they, Ian?
It's right by the Here Clear Vermont
okay.
building.
Yep.
So it's been asphalt. There was I believe there was a water leak, and it was fixed. It was repaired with asphalt, but any kind of rain just collects right there, just because it's asphalt and wasn't, and it's a little bit lower. And just sort of walking down there and seeing that the work that they've done with the drainage areas with asphalt, it seems to me like it's a perfect time to get those 2 panels done, since they haven't laid the final road yet. And it would complete that area of sidewalk. We could get it to properly drain. And I wanted to sort of bring that to attention now, just because they're wrapping up actually with sidewalks pouring on Main Street. And I wasn't sure if they'd move equipment out or things would disappear. And so if we were able to get that approved tonight to have that done by them, I think that would be a good time to do it.
We do not have a cost estimate.
That's what I was just going to say. Do we know how much it would cost?
The panels in front of the bank were, I think, about $2,000. At least that's what was estimated.
$3,500.
Oh, 35. Okay.
For per panel, or for all 3?
All of what the bank paid for is $35.
Was that 3 panels, Joel?
38 feet, 40 feet, something like that.
Okay.
How many?
Those are larger panels on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're 10 foot wide. They're 8 foot, at least 8 foot versus. Just a question on that, Valerie, about the panels. And I'm not having a problem with Hutchins doing it because they're mobilizing it. But have we heard from our sidewalk guy for Mountain Street?
I reached out to him a couple weeks ago and I have not heard back. I do plan to follow up again.
I just wondered if he could put that too. If Hutchins is too much, if you think it's too much. But.
Well, if we're having trouble getting him, well,
yeah.
I don't know if it's trouble, but if he committed to, Sergeant's committed to doing the Mountain Street sidewalk in August, even though we had hoped it would be sooner. So my sense is that he's been spread thin, so might not be available.
Well,
I think
I'm sorry, Ian, go ahead.
I was going to say they are available. We checked with Chris, and it seems like they should be able to do it.
Oh.
And I think we ought to do it then.
Okay.
Well, Chris said we could make that. We could probably make that happen. So I don't know. That's a broad. They can do it.
Jay Hutchins, not Sergeants.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hutchins, yeah.
Can we kind of get a cost estimate from them? I mean, I hate to say go ahead and do it, and then we wind up with a huge bill.
Well, we'll certainly do that. And if it seems out of line, then we'll pause.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? Do we need a motion? I mean, that if it's coming out of the sidewalk funds, we have a general consensus that's okay.
Yeah.
Peter good with that too?
Peter, you good? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want a motion, Val, or are you good with the consensus?
Let's I think a motion would be good.
Okay, Ian.
I make a motion that we, how do you want to say it? Do you want to say inquire about the pricing or replace the sidewalk?
Authorize pursuing coordination to replace the panels on East Street.
Pending verification of cost.
Sure, that's perfect.
That's the motion I'd like to make.
Joel seconds. Any more discussion?
Teamwork.
Peter said, good job, Ian.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hands.
Raise your
Any
hand.
opposed?
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, Peter raised his hand.
Okay. Motion carried.
Coming out of my phone.
Who seconded that?
Joel did.
Thank you.
Joel did. Okay, so I have a couple questions. the ponding on East Street, both north and south sides of the road? Are they checking into all that?
Yes, definitely on the south side. I'm not sure about north side, but there was also a report of ponding on West Street near School Street,
Yes, there is.
across from the bank.
Yep, it's not getting to that drain.
Right. Yeah.
Not a big pond. It's probably a 10-foot round circle today.
Mm-hmm.
Rain this morning.
How deep and how many fish are in it?
3 frogs, no fish.
Val, do you know, are they the ditches, and Eric, you may know this, the ditches that they asphalted, the one down the hill heading out of the street, and then they got one by, what's the road that goes down to the water?
Basin.
The septic field.
Basin.
Basin Street, that area there. Are they doing it, and up, you know, on both sides of Basin Street, are they putting another coat in, or is they done? They got another coat? Okay, Eric's shaking his head. Okay, because I was gonna say that
Right.
that stormwater west of Basin Street is like 3 inches higher than the pavement. Okay.
Right. It should be, I mean, when they're finished, it should be flush
Right.
with the stormwater drains, right, Eric?
That's what I thought. Okay. All right. And now, what's the status of the curb stops? I should have asked Cy and Jill. Are they still communicating? You know, they're still going to fix them before they
Yes.
final pay?
We talked about that at our construction meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about that or comments?
Yeah, I have. So there were 2 things. We had the owner or the manager of the Bobcat building spoke to me about the damage that was done to the skirting area of the Bobcat building, and whether they would repair that. It was gouging into the woodwork when they took the sidewalks out. So I've emailed Chris and CC'd Valerie on that, showing some photos of after the sidewalk. I haven't heard back from Chris yet. So that's one issue. The other issue was Melissa Hernandez at Recycled Reading actually emailed me. She was going to work on the Saturday, and it had just rained quite a lot. And so she noticed maybe 3 or 4 panels on the south side that were retaining water, were pooling water. And she emailed saying, that's not supposed to be like that, right? And I said, no. So I went down and I took photos, and I've emailed Chris and I've CC'd Valerie and asked them to fix those panels, because that's essentially, it's just as it was with the previous sidewalk. So we want to make sure that those panels are fixed. And there's essentially 2 panels outside of the Wallace Realty Island Girl Jewelry building. And then there are panels outside of the Bobcat area there was a lot of water sitting right there. And obviously if it's left like that, when we start to get colder, that just freezes, and then it is a terrible hazard. So I'm waiting to hear back from Chris on that as well.
Okay, great.
Now, what about the lamppost?
Which
Oh,
one?
yeah, the car. A car rolled and hit the lamppost over by Vermont Tree Goods.
Are you serious?
Well,
Oh my
it's
God.
I can't picture how that could possibly have happened.
hit is a strong word. It seemed to just brush against it lovingly, but it did scuff it a little bit, and it seems a little bit loose. I've asked Chris on this if the bolts could be tightened and if the head of the lamppost could be checked, because Bruce happened to be there as I was there taking pictures of other stuff, and we've talked about that and sort of compared it shakiness to other lampposts, but there doesn't seem to be any major damage. It was literally like just a brush against it, and some of the paint has just been scuffed a little bit.
I thought they were back far enough so people wouldn't hit them. Were they like on the sidewalk?
No, the vehicle rolled from a parked position across the street.
Oh.
Did it jump the curb?
Yeah, it went over the curb enough that it hit the light post.
Probably the light post stopped it from going into the building.
Right, which is good.
Yep. Oh God.
That's the
Do we know
silver
who it was?
lining.
Can we submit a damage request to their insurance company?
Yes, we did locate the person, and we got their insurance information.
So that's what I would do. Find out what it's going to cost to repair it and submit the bill to his insurance or her insurance, whoever. Yep.
Good.
Joel?
We're speaking about collating and hearing leaks, and I saw those 3 pictures all of us did of the 3 curb stops on East Street that were hit with the excavator.
Mm-hmm.
Should we at least have them checked before they do the final paving if those are leaking down underground? They don't look like to be. They were bent, but you never know. It could happen like the one over to Jackman's.
I thought that was the whole point. That's what Cy and Jill are working with Chris and them on, is making sure none of them leak and there's no damage below, right,
Well,
Val?
I read the email that said they were working on repairing, straightening them, and where they got bent. But I just want to make sure there's nothing leaking down 7 feet below the ground. That's all.
Yeah, I think maybe we check with Jill inside and see what they're doing and mention that to them.
I think that, I agree. I think that was their concern too, Joel, and they wanted to make sure that there was nothing below that wasn't broken.
Okay.
There's also, and I sent Jill an email too about this, there's another curb stop on the other side of the road, near where that asphalt sidewalk is by the Here Clear Vermont, another damaged curb stop. And I don't know if it's been like that, but it is in the area where they just put new asphalt in those curved little basin, water catch basin things. So I've sent that to her and she's gonna check that out.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Okay. Next, coronavirus COVID-19 update, preparations, response, and impacts to municipal operations.
Well, the town office is still closed and following the procedures that have been in place. I did not hear the governor's conference if he had one today, so I not heard if there have been any changes. What was that?
It's Tuesdays and Fridays.
Oh, Tuesdays. Okay. Well, in any case, I have not heard if there's been any change to the July 15th deadline on the stay-at-home order and the emergency order, or if any other protocols have been updated that are relevant to our operations.
All I heard him say Friday, Valerie, was he doesn't see any change to suspending up July 15th. He doesn't see eliminating that. He says basically it's going to at least go another 30 days. He didn't come.
So you mean he's going to extend it?
Extend it. Yeah. He says he's not going to close it, so to speak.
Okay, so he might do that on Tuesday then, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, probably.
I see. Okay. All right. I'll stay tuned for that. In the meantime, as I noted in my report, that Jen, Sharon, and I had been having preliminary conversations about the idea of a soft opening of the town office. If there's some way to balance keeping it closed and secured, but yet also providing some windows of opportunity for people to come in and conduct town business more efficiently for both them and for Sharon or whoever else is at the counter dealing with those transactions. But that also raised a number of questions, even if it is just 3 days a week for 4 hours. How does that affect absentee ballot voting in the town office if a specific private location has to be provided? How do we deal with the ADA access from the rear of the building? And then the other thing that I didn't include in the report was if we do keep it open to the public, door unlocked, face masks required for that period of time, then we would probably have to not also allow appointments in the vault, because if the transaction at the counter requires any of the staff to go in the vault to retrieve a record, mayor's license, whatever, then there can't be a researcher in there at the same time because the vault's just not large enough to accommodate more people. The thoughts we were kicking around, and also putting a chain with a command lock or command hook right by at the edge of the counter before the hallway, just so that we can control access and who goes down there. So we just thought we'd share those ideas and get a weather report from the select board and get your feedback.
There's also the tax appeals and abatement requests and the meeting of that many people. I raised the concern about that by email, and so we just need to make sure that everyone's safe if a number of people are coming in for those meetings.
Jen, could you have that tax appeal upstairs in the in the hall, 6 feet apart.
Sorry, couldn't find my mute button. I think Sharon scheduled that meeting in conjunction with Pete Ryan, and it was his request because I don't think he's super comfortable using Zoom, and I can't totally blame him. So, and there's just a lot of pieces and parts that go on in coordination and creating committees and whatnot, but there technically, I think, only doesn't have to be for the abatement meeting. I think there has to be a quorum of 9, but that includes more people than the BCA meeting for the appeal hearing. I think for the appeal hearing, we read that you only needed like 3 or 4 people to be there. So, there is a chance that, I guess Sharon's plan is to go downstairs, assuming she can with the capacity, and that if she can't, she will move it upstairs if capacity becomes an issue.
Well, the
Was
BCA, you
was
got to
my
have a minimum.
understanding.
BCA, you got to have a minimum of 3 for the inspection team. Your BCA.
Right. So you have to have at least 3 people to do the appeal, but we're doing there's 2 appeals, but there's also an abatement request, and an abatement is a different quorum requirement. So but I think she had said that she thought that she could manage downstairs in the space, and that if she felt like she couldn't, that we'd go upstairs.
I was in the office today and spoke with her about that, and she said one of the people has decided not to contest, so there's one less group that would be present. And I asked if she'd have it upstairs, and she said she thought she might move it up there.
Okay.
That was this afternoon.
Okay. Anything else?
Just Valerie, on the chain or somebody coming in, and I know you were going to use those webbing or whatever it is from the voting booths from the town meeting that we use.
Well, that was an idea.
What's the possibility coming in the front door and going out the handicap entrance? So what if somebody came in down the steps and somebody going out, you're not going to keep that 6 foot, but this way you're coming in the front down the steps, unless they're ADA, and then, but to exit the building, you go down past the listers and out the door that way. Is that a possibility?
I'm not following the purpose of your question.
Well, he's talking about maintaining 6 foot distance from people coming in and out of the office. So if you only have a one way in and one way out, they never cross paths.
When they
I don't
get
know
in,
if you're going to have that many
by
people.
the alarm panel, they're at least almost 6 feet away from the counter who somebody might be standing there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the post office limits the capacity to 2 people at a time. We could do the same thing with a sign on the door.
That's what we're
And
doing.
also too, if you're holding them upstairs, you can come in the front door and you can go out the side door. So there's no issue with distance with that. So we've also had a.
I'm talking about the soft opening. You come in or down the stairs, and if somebody's at the counter, you would pause right there as soon as you get in, and wait till that person clears and goes down the hallway past Valerie's office and out the back door or the side door.
What do you think about that, Jen?
I'm sorry, I got interrupted by another child.
Tell Chase and Lucy we said goodnight.
So Joel's talking about entering through the front door down the stairs, waiting, and leaving through the back door past the lister's office. Correct, Joel?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I mean, that seems like an easy way to do it.
No people would meet coming down the stairs.
Right.
In that vestibule.
Although you are exposing more people to more areas of the building, which means you have to sanitize more areas.
I guess that's probably the question I ask Valerie every time, and she's probably almost sick of hearing me ask that question, just because, I mean, I think it sounds like it's up to us to decide what our own sanitary requirements are going to be, because there isn't any, guidelines as far as that goes. We only get the office cleaned once a week, by the cleaning person who comes in and does that. So I guess my question is what what requirements are you all, or are we going to decide are appropriate measures to take? I don't have an issue with doing it. I just want to know what the requirement or what we foresee. You know, if we're talking about wearing a mask when you enter, that's fine. But then, you know, as Michelle said, I can completely agree with Joel's sentiment, just because I know that that's what Cubbers is doing. You know, you pick up and then you walk out the back door so that there's not people running into each other. But if we're going to have to go and clean that entire space now, because everyone's walked down the hallway, or it gives people an opportunity to stop and talk to Valerie and to Chris and to Mark or Craig that are in there. You know, I don't know if that poses any concerns, and if it doesn't, then I think it's a fine idea.
And the biggest issue with these is sort of the amount of time that someone spends in a space who could potentially be infected. If they're wearing masks, that's already helping. That's stopping the spread of germs coming from them. And so you're being aware of how much time they spend in a particular room. I think if Valerie or Chris or the listers are there, perhaps it's something where they know people are coming in, you might want to close doors so that you don't invite more conversation. And I think leaving by the back entrance is fine. I don't think you'd have to sanitize an entire area if it's just a walkthrough of someone leaving. The main thing would be if they're sitting at a table, if they're touching things, touching a pen, touching other surfaces, things like that, then you'd obviously wipe them down, which I'm sure you're doing already, just as other places are. So I don't think you'd have to sanitize out the hallway and then the door. You might want to obviously wipe down door handles, things like that. You're going through 2 doors in that area, so you probably just need to be aware of cleaning that.
Does it also make sense to maybe do some sort of a PR campaign inviting people to, you know, vote early, and, you know, to have more people come in now instead of having a crush at the end? Does that make, I mean, from forum, Facebook, that kind, I know that the mailings came home asking people to, if they wanted them, but I'm just wondering if that makes sense and would alleviate some of what you're talking about.
So the question that I posed that Sharon had reached out to the Secretary of State about was that if we're open, if we are required to allow someone to come and sit and vote, which we don't know the answer to, or she didn't know when I left this afternoon yet. She had not heard back. And that's the only concern, because as Ian said, if they're sitting in a space or in an area and whatnot, like, that's just going to be that much more sanitizing that we're going to have to do. So that was my kind of question, was if we open the doors, which I'm fine with, and Ian comes in and says, I want to sit here and vote today, do we have to let him do that? Or can we tell him, I'm sorry, you cannot vote here. You have to take your ballot with you. You can go sit in your car and you can come right back inside and hand it back to us. But the last thing we want is to cause any ruckus with, you know, the Secretary of State and elections and whatnot. So I think we were kind of waiting to do some kind of soft opening based on guidance I think we were going to get from the Secretary of State as far as if we were open, if we were required to allow people to vote in the office, with the idea that that would play a role in whether we would be opening or considering opening.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking that if they were mailed to their home, they could vote at home and just drop them off.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Sharon obviously could speak better to it, but I know that I have folded well over 600 ballots that we've mailed out from the mailing that people have received, and they've responded to the mailing. I think people are taking advantage of that. Some people don't like the postcard and then just call and say, I got the postcard, but I still want a ballot, and we've mailed them ballots. So there's kind of a handful of both people, but we've definitely sent out probably way more ballots than I would have guessed would potentially participated without any of this going on, because usually it's not super high participation.
It seems like it would work. Once you get your answer from the state, that'll determine if you do have to up your game in terms of sanitary things in the building. But to speak to Darla's suggestion, I think the town could also push and suggest, taking your ballot home or getting it mailed to your home, and just encourage that, especially during these times. I don't think there's anything wrong with us doing that. It's not that we're trying to deny people to come in if they are by law allowed to come in, but I think it's just a much more comfortable situation, both for town employees and for residents to be able to vote and just drop it off. Do they have to give it to you in person? Can I put it in the Dropbox in the door?
They can put it in the Dropbox.
Okay. Even easier. You don't have to go into the office. You can just throw it in there.
I
So,
think
yeah.
Sharon's considering some other options for voting. I think she's still looking into potentially thinking about hosting it downstairs because of the flow and because of, just as Joel had suggested earlier, that you can come in one door and go out another door, and that there's no reason to congregate and talk. And the other piece of it is temperature control, and that you cannot temperature control the upstairs. So when it's blazing hot and 100 degrees and we have to ask people to wear, our workers included, and everyone's supposed to be wearing masks and all this other gear, you know, are people going to be able to come in and work as if they're 6-hour shift doing that? And, you know, so I think she's seriously considering some other options. Obviously, it would limit the number of people that could vote at one time. Obviously, the hope, I think, at this point is that a lot of people are going to participate via absentee ballot. But in the instance that they do want to come in, I think it'll be easier to say, well, there can only be 3 people back here right now. And that's the number of people that you can let in the door at once. And people can socially distance in a line outside the building, waiting to come in if that's what needs to, you know, that's what it comes down to. But I know she's considering some different options for the August election in particular.
Okay, if you do that in one way, out the other way, that's going to adjust where you put your little chain. Too, because
right. I mean, yeah, I think obviously for that there would be no chain. It would be that, I mean, because we have installed this plexiglass, you'd come in and like the thought would be you check in at the counter so that there's already plexiglass there for someone behind. Yep. And then there'd just be one person sitting at a table at the back door. So you'd check out, deposit your ballots, and you'd walk out the handicap entrance. Is something we had talked about, just as an idea to help create flow, because upstairs if it is busy, it tends to get people to congregate because they see someone they haven't seen in ages, and they want to chat and stand in the lobby and whatnot. And I think we're trying to discourage that at this point.
Joel, did you have something you want to say?
Mine's more on August 11th obviously is the primary. That's one day, but mine was more on the soft opening, Jen.
Yep.
How we're doing it in Brandon, because that's the only branch that we have that doesn't drive up, and we're opening now 9 to 4 down there. They either rap on the door or call.
Yeah.
The staff opens the door and lets them in.
Yeah.
One person in at a time, and then the staff lets them back out. So the public is not touching any of the doors. The only thing our tellers do is wipe down the counter where they came in and put their money down or deposit a check or anything. That's just a thought where you could have a table out front with a little pump bottle and say, mask required, kind of like Martin's, you wash your hands, go in, and please call or rap on the door, and we'll take the next available person. Just a thought of going back out there, because you know, if 5 of us come in and we're all wait in line and go out the other way, did one of us bring that in and touch the doors?
Right. I mean, I think, and maybe Valerie can speak to this better, but some of the sentiment that I'm getting from Sharon is that people are just needing very simplistic transactions. Like they just want to pick up a DMV registration form. And so they're calling or they're banging on the door, and you have to go out and you say, what is it that you need? And then they say, oh, I just am looking for a DMV registration. So you have to walk back inside, you have to grab the form, then you have to go back out. And so I think, you know, from the simplistic transaction approach, it would be like, here's your window of time to come and get your DMV registration forms or your bill of sales or your you know, whatever, you know, the simple forms that you really don't need me or Sharon or Valerie or anybody else to help you with. You just need to access to the form.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's
Sharon spends a lot of time going back and forth to the door, answering the phones, and so part of this is thinking of some way to manage these transactions efficiently.
I mean, the voting is going to be the most complex one, just
Yeah,
because
so
the amount
it's
of people
becoming,
probably want to come to. I mean, I think if the town starts messaging now, some good messaging about absentee ballots and encouragement to take them, just to alleviate the potential strain and just the complications that arise from having that many people come and vote in person. You know, I'd be happy to sort of help with that and to try to get that message out starting as soon as we can, just to encourage people. And it seems like people already know that because you've mailed out the postcard already, and it seems like you've already got a very high number of people that you're sending out. Let's see if we can get that number higher, encourage people, and then obviously with those numbers, that's going to tell you like how many people could potentially, I mean, past years are obviously it's a little bit different this year, but
Right.
who could potentially come in and want to vote in person.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Since we don't have the answers yet from the Secretary of State's office, and we haven't heard exactly what the governor's going to do perhaps tomorrow in terms of extending the order, my sense is that perhaps we're not ready to make any decisions tonight. Jen, do you think waiting 2 weeks to the next meeting would be fair? Or do you think do we want the select board to authorize us to go ahead and make a decision on our own and to work out what's best based upon what other information we get in the coming week? Or are you just dying to open the doors?
I guess do I have to wear a mask? And I'm not saying this because I don't want to. I'm saying this because I want to know that if I'm not required to wear a mask and I'm sitting in and somebody comes in to use any of our services that we offer and they see me not wearing one and then they come and complain to you all, you know, is that going to be an issue? And I have no issue doing it. I just want to be clear at what the expectation is.
I think the rule is if you're behind a plexiglass, you don't need to wear a mask if you're talking to somebody.
Although the guidance has been updated, perhaps in response to the new information about aerosol transmission, that even in enclosed spaces like hallways and other common areas where people can't be 6 feet apart, workers do need to be wearing masks indoors.
Because right now we all are not, for the most part, unless, you know, we have somebody in there and you're kind of, you know, Valerie's really good about, she prints something at the copier and she comes out with her mask on, and I'm not good at it. I'll be honest. I'm not. I'm in my office and.
But are you in your office, Jennifer? And she goes.
I am, but then, you know, you go to help somebody at the counter. You know, when we go to the door and get somebody to come in, you put your mask on. But I mean, I guess what I want to know is that what we're going to go by, is that we're all going to have to wear masks? I mean, because in theory, if there's nobody in there, we could probably all sit and take our masks off, or if Valerie's in her office alone, or I'm in my office alone, we could have no masks. But the second that somebody came to the office, would then that mean we'd have to put a mask on? Is that?
As I understand it, like you said, when you're in your office alone, especially if the door's open and there's good air circulation, mask is not required. But entering common areas like the photocopier, or even walking by Sharon's desk to go down the hallway, or towards the bathrooms or the mail area, that it would be required.
That's what required at our office. I don't have to wear mine in my office. When someone comes to my office, they got to wear theirs, and then I have to put mine on when they come in, get more than 6 feet from me, less than 6 feet. But in my office, I don't have to have it until I go out of my office. I have to put it on. I can't step out of my office without it on.
Yeah, and I think if the public's coming in, even if we have the plexiglass in the building or at the counter, I think you should still wear one, because I think like you said, I'm sure you're going to have people concerned with that.
Right. I mean,
they're
that's
not going to think it's enough, and so that's more of a reason I feel just to keep it closed, and just continue to see what the state and what the governor is saying.
I think at least until August 11th.
Okay.
after the election.
And
Figure
then
out-
and then we'll reevaluate that. I mean, I think it's easier for you, Jen, and the people that are in the office. I mean, it's you also have to be aware of you're around people every day, and if you're not wearing your mask, there is the potential that one of those people could become infected. I mean, our numbers are very low, but they will only get higher as other states and the more people that come into this state. So you just have to be aware of that. You have your own bubble that is the office. The minute you invite the public in there, even with a small amount of opening, you open yourself up more for criticism regarding mask and hygiene, and also the potential for more people bringing something into that small area that is the town office. So.
Right.
I have a different opinion, but I'll just leave that alone because, I mean, all the places I see with plexiglass, they don't wear the mask because they have the glass in front of them. And if you're comfortable with that, to me, that's sufficient. I mean, the person on the other side probably is going to has to have a mask on. So, but, you're in and up and down. So.
But it would be the person coming in wearing the mask and perhaps expecting Jen or Sharon to be wearing a mask, and because the plexiglass is there, maybe. Because there are often times you go and they have the plexiglass and a person behind a counter is wearing a mask as well. So it's just, I think like you said earlier, Jen, I think people would be concerned with that. Even if you're comfortable and you have the plexiglass and you've been already, working without a mask in your office, in your area, the minute you get more people in, there'll be concern about that, I think. I also want to raise the question of the mask mandate. Maura Donnelly, who's on the meeting now, she sent an email to all of us with something that happened in her store, Simon Says. And I don't, maybe if you want to speak a little bit about that, Maura. And I just want to talk about that more, and as a select board, what we should do as a town. There's obviously no mask mandate from the governor, but a number of towns, including Middlebury, are setting sort of rules and regulations, or at least that's for the Middlebury, it's not a mandate, it's a resolution. And I'm wondering, a lot of people have asked me whether Bristol is going to be doing that.
Maura probably left.
Hopefully she's still there.
No, she's coming back on.
I'm still here. I will have to go soon. Sorry, we had suddenly our fire smoke alarms needed new batteries in our house. But I will have to go do bedtime in a minute. I emailed to all the select board members what occurred in our store and my concerns about it. And I understand the issues of enforcement, and I'm not really looking for the police to enforce it or anything like that. I feel like it's the first issue we've had in my store, and it was really unfortunate that it was with two young teenagers who were really upset by the confrontation that they experienced. And I've seen young teenagers and non-store owners in very similar situations in at least Maple Fields and at the Creamy Stand. And I feel like if we had as I said in my email, it's one thing for a store owner to say, masks are required, and if you choose not to shop here, that's fine. And to kind of take that heat, whatever that is, although I don't think that's terribly cool either, but it was really upsetting to me that some young people that are working in my store received that kind of pushback. And I've seen other young people in town receive it. And I feel like that a resolution or a mandate, whatever the language is, but that if it comes from the select board, and if it's a town-wide or a village-wide resolution, then it has more clout and more of an understanding and less ambiguity. And that's sort of what I'm proposing.
Go ahead, Ian. I think you said you wanted to talk about it.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you have more that you wanted to say?
Well, looking at what the select board in Middlebury did, their resolution, it's very clear, but it's also, it's mainly focuses on cover nose and mouth when inside a public setting or outdoors where it's not possible to maintain. We have lots of outdoor space, and I see a lot of people on the street wearing masks still. A lot of people aren't, but we still have good 6 feet distancing. So, a lot of that resolution in Middlebury is with indoor spaces. and requiring people to wear masks, especially if they can't distance at 6 feet, which a lot of our stores on Main Street don't have that potential. You know, we already have limitations of how many people can come in because some of the stores are small. And so I think we should seriously consider looking at a resolution. A mandate is a stronger thing. I understand that, and I know we've talked about this before in past meetings. But the fact that so many towns around us are doing resolutions regarding masks, I think it's something that Bristol should seriously consider.
Joel, you have anything, you or Peter have anything you want to say?
Peter? Anything? Thinking. Well, I've given this an awful lot of thought, and when I first started, I said, no way in God's green earth I'm going to vote to make people wear a mask. And now I've thought the other way, and I have completely read the Middlebury resolution. It is worth the paper they printed it on. It's so vague. It's unbelievable. It's suggested. But you can go in the courthouse, you can go in the post office, and you can go into some other federal buildings. That's the ones they said, no, you can't. We can't make them wear masks. And I thought to myself, you're making your businesses who pay your taxes to that town, who own that building, they have to wear a mask. And the government buildings who don't pay you any taxes, you can't tell them what to do. And I got a little jab into Kathleen the other day when we met. I said it wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. She says, no comment. So, but anyway, and then I asked my wife, who works over at Mountain Health, what has she thought about it? I've always bounced some things off her every once in a while. And she said, absolutely, ought to be wearing a mask. So, you know, I would collectively support, you know, I don't like to tell businesses what to do. Whether it's Mara or Martin's or Cubbers or any of them, that's their business and that's their time. If they want to say, hey, you ain't masked up, get out. Or you're smoking a cigarette, get out. You know, we passed a law few years ago, you can't smoke a cigarette in bars and restaurants. And, you know, that was a lot of flack for a while about that. And I don't think this coronavirus is going away in September by school starts. No way. So I could support that something to the language that says we support our local businesses by wearing masks and the presence within 6 feet inside of a building or 6 feet outside a building. I meet somebody, if I'm standing in line at the creamy stand, I would hope the person behind me in front of me has got a mask on. Now the person who's got the creamy eating it can't have that. So I could support some kind of a resolution that says that we support our local merchants, businesses for face coverings. So that's what we're saying. We're supporting them. We're not. So like the young lady said here, Mara said that the two girls had to say, okay, and he told her, I'm not coming back. That she'll have to deal with that. That's one less merchant or person that's ever going to buy from her again. But that's her decision to make. It's her business, and she has to pay her rent based on her income and what she sells. So, but I want to support her and support our merchants, but I don't want to mandate it. If the merchant says, you know, come on into Cubbers or whatever, we don't require masks, then I don't want to tell the business they have to wear masks. I support them if they want to make that resolution. They want to say that we're requiring, like Martin's does, you're required to wear a mask and wash up. Then I support him. It's his building.
Speaker ready to speak?
Ready?
No, I still, you know, I think it should be left up to the individual businesses whether they want to require it. I support if they want you to wear a mask, I do support that. But I'm still very uncomfortable about the board mandating that people wear masks.
Okay. Darla?
I would support this wholeheartedly. In talking with in my work, a lot of folks in the medical field, they're all wearing masks. I work with the health department. They're all wearing masks wherever they go. You know, I talked to the head of pediatrics at UVM the other day. He supports wearing masks all the time. I just, if we're not going to listen to our doctors and our scientists, I guess that's a choice you can make for yourself. But if I'm looking for advice, that's where I'm going to go. I've been in downtown businesses where I have a mask on. It says on their door, please don't enter without a mask. I was at Adam's store the other day. There were plenty of folks in there without a mask. I think we can make this statement asking people, saying that within a business space or on a business premises, so perhaps that covers the creamy stand outside, it's the premises. If they choose to enforce it or tell people to leave or not leave, that's up to the business. But I don't see, I think it's a great way to support folks so that we don't have young people having to, they still might run there's still an opportunity for someone to be unpleasant about it. And I think that's going to happen in the climate right now. But I think it's a great way, again, to support our businesses. And if they choose to wire people or not, and how they go about doing that once they're in their premises is up to them. But I do question how is it just paper? Is it just a suggestion? Does somebody call Bruce if someone's belligerent? I'd like to know where that, like if it was Maura who was in the store, would she have had the option to call Bruce for support? That's what I'm unclear about.
Well, she could always call Bruce for support if she has a belligerent, whether they're wearing a mask or not. But
that's true.
I don't know, Joel, have you read the Virgins one? Because Virgins has one as well. And my biggest thing is, how do you enforce it? You can't require people to wear a mask. You can't. Even if you put the mandate out there, people are coming and going and doing as they please. I mean, even Middlebury has it. I see plenty of people without masks, including myself. Not that I go in a store without one, because I do it out of respect for others, but there's plenty of people that are out there in and out of the stores that don't wear the mask. So, I mean, I just don't know what it's going to get us.
I think it's
You
something.
got no shoes, no shirts, no mask, no service.
I think it shows the businesses, as Darla said, the support, and it allows them to have a little bit more gravitas when it comes to this situation. And I think that's why I like the idea of a resolution versus a mandate. They are two different things. And I think we should go into this knowing that we probably can't enforce this. That's an impossible thing to do. And I think if we have that in our minds, that even though we can't enforce this, we would still like to see it happen. And it just allows a business, if we agree on something like this, it allows them to post language that the town has made this resolution, and it just gives them a little bit more help, especially in these times where a lot of businesses are really struggling. And I personally don't know of any business on Main Street that doesn't require people to wear masks when they're entering their premises. And I agree with Darla. I've been in Adams many a time, and at the beginning, like a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, there were far fewer people wearing masks than there are now. And he has signs on the front of his door going in, and you still see the odd people coming in, but there are many more people wearing masks. And that was a spot that I felt that was very, very mask-free. And people are wearing masks. So people, yes, we could not have a resolution, but I just think it helps. It shows the town that we're supporting our local businesses in these difficult times with the resolution.
Okay. Michelle Peeker's got something to say.
Yeah, go ahead, Peeker.
Well, I agree that we should be wearing masks when we go into these places, and I don't have a problem with that. But we don't have any resolution as far as no shirts, no shoes. Those are the things that business owners have put up themselves. And I just, I wholeheartedly agree we should be wearing masks, but I don't want to mandate or pass a resolution that tells our people they have to.
Yeah, but at the same time, a shirtless man or woman coming into your establishment doesn't kill you by not having their shirt on or shoes. This is something that can kill you. 130,000 people have died in the United States from this virus. And so it's a completely different situation. This enables businesses to have some help from us.
You don't get served if you go into that store without a shirt. You don't get served if you go in without shoes. You don't even think about going in there because the sign is there. If the sign is there that tells you to wear a mask, I don't see how it's any different vendor enforcing that as far as you coming in. I just, you know, it's a courtesy that the shopper ought to have for the store.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Right.
And unfortunately, you're going to have people who aren't that courteous, unfortunately.
But even if we do a resolution, you're going to have those people.
Right. I mean,
right.
It's kind of, I know that old saying is kind of like peeing your pants in a dark suit. It's going to give you a warm feeling. It's going to notice. You know, could we some kind of resolution, Peter, support that says the town select board supports the local businesses of requiring masks due to this coronavirus 19. We strongly urge you to comply to our local businesses that want to enforce this rule.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just don't want to say the select board says you have to wear masks when you go into businesses in town.
Right. So how would the board feel about that? A resolution that says the town select board through the health, as health whatever, support our local businesses that require all patrons to wear a mask. And we urge you to follow our local merchants by requiring a face covering.
You'd have to get the wording right, but Maura, go ahead.
Yeah.
One of the ways that I frame it, my signage, and when I talk to people, is that we're keeping everybody safe, right? It's not like something I've just dreamed up, right? That we're keeping everybody safe and you're being a good neighbor by doing this. And I feel like that might be a way to frame it for the board, the select board, to kind of talk about it in that way, to acknowledge that masks keeps our whole community safe. And we encourage people to wear masks when they're in business establishments, and we support business owners to set those kinds of rules in their establishment. But I feel like that's a frame. And, you know, I have like funny signs because we have a lot of kids, like take a squirt of hand sanitizer so you can touch that. Like, I mean, to try to, but to really have that as a frame, like we're keeping each other safe. We're in a community, we're in an unusual time. And by wearing a mask, you are thinking of your neighbors and keeping each other safe. That might be a way to frame it. That
and you feel
really about a community, it's not really about a mandate in that way.
Okay, and you feel something like that coming from the town, just that would help you along with your signage and your rules for your particular business?
I think it would make it clear to everybody that yes, I think it would help, that it wouldn't be just a one-off. And you're right, I think everybody on Main Street does require it. But this way it doesn't feel like it's just an individual, so much of just an individual quirk, if lack of a better word, you know, for a business.
Okay.
Well, I think also, Ian, it could be that Maura could say, and the select board support me on, we support the merchants that require our patrons to wear masks. Now, we didn't make it a mandate, that we support our merchants when they request that you wear a mask. We will support you.
I think part of the biggest problem is that a lot of people still don't understand that the mask isn't for my personal protection. Me wearing a mask is for your protection, and I think that's where the problem is. You know, I don't care. I'm not wearing a mask because I don't care if I get it. Well, it's not the idea that you're going to get it. The idea is that I don't want to get it from you, and out of respect for me, you should wear a mask. I mean, we should all wear them when we're in that environment. And you know, like I said, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I just don't know how to say it in a manner that isn't going to be offensive.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand that, Baker. And I think I'd support something where, as Maura suggested, where it's framed in a certain way. So perhaps it's not, I didn't want to go as strong as a mandate, but a resolution, or something else where we are supporting local businesses, and it enables local businesses to have this as an extra piece of or an extra help for them to be able to draw on that as well. So I support something that we're able to frame in a way to be able to help, and you're doing good for the whole community.
Val, any idea? Do you have like somewhere we could look for some wording? Unmute.
There are different examples. I don't know of any that took that particular approach, but I think we, from what I'm hearing, I think we have a pretty good idea of what the select board would want to say. I think we can do it.
So can we draft something and then send it to us and
for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Sure.
That'd be great. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Peter said yes too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you, Maura.
Thanks, Lauren.
To us.
Okay, next, Bristol Revolving Loan Fund. Consider use of the funds to assist Bristol businesses through COVID-19.
Did you want to, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Did you want to make that a motion or no?
No, because we're just gonna draft the resolution, then we'll decide on the resolution.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Bristol Revolving Loan Fund. Consider use of the fund to assist Bristol businesses through COVID-19 impacts.
Thank you, Bunny. Thank you so much for helping me with the smoke alarm. It was kind of scary.
Let's mute Maura.
I did.
So folks had a chance to review Fred Baser's email and also my notes. Fred initially suggested using the revolving loan funds, of which there's a balance of over $360,000 currently, to offer Bristol businesses to, for example, pay for a year's rent with no interest. Jen had a good suggestion that rather than frame it in that way and perhaps duplicate resources that are available through federal or state resources, have the businesses approach the loan fund about what they need. What are their priorities? What's their situation? How could the loan fund be most useful to them? And have them let us know. And then the revolving loan fund committee would review the proposal and all the other ins and outs of the situation, the vulnerability, the collateral, security, and all that stuff, and go from there.
That would have been my suggestion, is find out what they need.
Yeah.
Because I know some of them probably got PPE loans and the EDIL and grants or whatever. So, and there's also Vermont grants now that I guess people could have applied for on Monday. So maybe they don't need anything, but
you can be sure that all of those resources, yeah, a lot of those resources are very restrictive, and so a lot of people won't qualify for them.
Right.
For example, a lot of these resources that are available don't apply to mom and pops because they don't have employees or sole proprietors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ian, is that something the Corps can talk with the stores?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
I mean, they can always connect with the revolving loan fund, send an email to Fred or whatever and say, this is what we suggest. We might want to have to put some criteria on whether, if somebody wasn't already in good standing at the time this hit, do we really provide them with more money? But that's going to be a revolving loan fund.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a challenging process to evaluate that, because everybody's going to be vulnerable, quite likely, in one way or another. And so I guess it'll boil down to what level of risk the town and loan fund folks are comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Jen's suggestion in terms of opening it up to what businesses might need, and maybe the first stage is to say that the town is looking at using the revolving loan fund in a new way because of the COVID-19 impacts, and the town's interested in hearing from you and what your needs might be, and then start to figure out how to do it. Because if I don't have a clear plan of how to use it, I think it's going to make it a little bit more complicated for everyone.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Joel?
I guess I don't have too many concerns about it, with the exception of, let's say a business is doing well and they want to expand, and to give them a 0%. I'd like to know the parameters of what they need. Where the 0% is going to be has got to be more of a bailout than a loan. And I'm thinking, you know, if they have 5 employees and they want to expand and they're doing well, but they're going to use the COVID-19 as getting some more money for 0%. I had some reservations about that. I'd rather, if you need the money to survive or you're going to go under, we need to have that conversation with you. But if you need the money because you want to expand, you're doing well and you want to expand, not that we want you to come and do that, because part of the revolving loan fund was if you could create jobs, that what that money was for. But I don't think it should be 0% if it's going to be in that neck of the woods. If you're going to say we're going to expand and double our size and going to go from 5 employees to 10, you know, I'm not sure they qualify for coronavirus-19 our revolving loan fund money at 0%. That's
right. And the committee could determine what you know, how to lend money. But I guess
I'd like it to actually go more than just the core. I mean, your core is mostly Main Street and a little up the side, street, correct? You know, I'm thinking of Vermont Farm Table, and right next to me, they were out for 8 or 9 weeks, no business. They were home, you know, and things like that. So that's why I want to make sure just more than just Bristol core.
Sure.
Members.
And our focus is our area, but I also, you know, we also try to reach as many businesses. But I think it's a combination of Bristol core doing this as well as the town. And I can do both of that actually in my position. So I'm happy to do that. Jen, you have a question?
Jen, go ahead.
So we do have a new pending application that we just got at the very end of last week. So, but Joel, I think just for clarity purposes, I think Fred's intention was to just say that perhaps you as a board and the committee would consider getting more creative with the use of the money for the need of the businesses. So not turning away the person who wanted to expand, but also not turning away the person, you know, who's trying to use it as a survival method. And so I think he just wanted, you know, to broach that subject as far as, because obviously this COVID-19 is kind of some uncharted territory. So I think he was thinking along the lines of trying to assist these businesses who might be struggling. But the next question he asked me today, and I don't know the answer to, is who's the liaison for the revolving loan fund that needs to attend this meeting? Is it you still, Michelle? I didn't know.
Still me, yeah.
At one point, and then I didn't know if you had just so kindly done it once. And
no, I told Val I would do it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Then I will add you into that email loop.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So the pitch would be, well, not the pitch, but how I might talk to people about it. Maybe just using Fred's words. You know, town is considering the use of the fund to assist Bristol businesses through COVID-19 impacts. And if you're interested in doing that, or you know want to talk to the revolving loan fund, email Fred or contact the town or whatever. Something to those words.
Or provide us with your ideas of what you think you need assistance with that the town could help with the revolving loan fund.
Right.
Right. But I want to. But are they sending me the ideas and I'm passing it to you, or they should be contacting the revolving loan fund?
Yeah,
directly.
They should contact the revolving loan fund.
Okay, and would that be Fred or would that be you?
That would be Fred.
Okay.
And Michelle.
Okay, so it's just.
Go ahead, Ian.
I was going to say, so it's just that, well, I'll just use that. Like, we're considering opening up the fund to assist Bristol businesses through COVID-19 impacts. If you want more information about this or feel that you could use those funds, contact Fred Bates, chair of that revolving loan fund. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Are we going to set a limit? I don't want to, you know, Valerie said we got a good chunk of change in there. Like I know I read my Rutland Herald last week or a couple months or so ago, their city council alderman put a limit. I think they only borrowed like 75 or 100,000 out of their revolving loan fund to help coronavirus businesses. So are we going to, what if we got $350,000 worth of funds and we use it all up? Are we going to put a limit?
Suggesting, Jen?
I think that that's a tough question to answer because everybody's need is probably going to be a little bit different. I think that the higher the loan for a survival, to me, might also mean higher the risk. Maybe that's not a fair guess, but that might, I guess, if you're going to loan somebody this money as a relief for COVID, I mean, at this point, I would think that the hope is that the personal guarantee is going to lie pretty heavily with whoever the borrower is, so that if their business ends up still not being successful, that they're going to use their personal guarantee to continue to pay on loans. And we have a couple borrowers who do that right now, who don't own businesses anymore and still pay themselves on loans, and that's their personal guarantee. We've also been left
high and dry.
Who doesn't. So it's,
holding some,
you know, it's like, it's hard because I like to think the value in this community is really high, and that people that are here and requesting the money, you know, have strong community value, and that they're going to want to do good by their community, whether they're still a business owner, you know, 5 years from now, or whether they're not. But that's kind of the risk that we have with these loans, is that the collateral we have is little to nothing.
okay, my banker's coming out of me, Michelle. I'm sorry, but I mean, you guys all know that I've always been accused of, oh, Joel, you've got your banking hat on, and this is just a handshake. And we've landed a lot of money on a handshake, and some of it's come back. A lot of it's come back. Great.
Almost all of it, yeah.
Not all of it. And I think if we're going to dip into this at 0%, I want to see some collateral on the table, or sorry. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a certain percentage, and maybe Fred and the revolving loan fund can decide how much we leave in the bank for maybe some other business who may need it for something other than COVID-19.
Right.
You know, but I guess I would leave that up to the revolving loan fund for now. Let them decide.
And I would like to see, at least, as your representative for the board, Michelle, is maybe it's 0% for a year, and then if it's stretched out over 5 years, then it clicks up a couple of percentage over that year 2 to 5. It doesn't stay at 0%, or does it all have to be, if they borrow 100,000, does it all have to come back in a year? I think those are questions we're going to have to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fine, like on a case-by-case basis, the committee looks at that and makes a determination. I mean, and I think, you know, let's put it out there and see what kind of response we get. If we're inundated with people that are interested, then obviously, you know, we'll have some work on our hands. But, you know, I think it's good to open it up. I think it's a good thing to do, and I think it could help people.
Okay.
And what I listened to today on the news, that the governor just signed a law, I think on Friday, about $85 million going into for renters and mortgage people who can't make their mortgage payment, or renters. And they said it's not going to be on a first come first served basis. It's going to be more on need, and they're not going to, the first one gets in the gate gets the money. They're going to take a lot of applicants, and it may take a couple of months before they start pushing money back out, because they want to see they realize that 85 million ain't going to cover everybody in the state of Vermont.
Right. So. Well, and that'll probably be the same way with this. If we get inundated, we're going to have to evaluate the highest need.
Right. Exactly.
Unfortunately, you only have limited funds.
Like you said earlier, though, I think between what the state is giving and what the Fed is giving, I don't know that, I'd be surprised if there were a large number of people applying, but there's a possibility, of course.
I'd be surprised too, Darla. And being, you know, business people, they're probably saying, you know what, I can't take on any more debt.
Well, that's, yeah.
Pay it back. Either I can make it with what I got, or I'm just going to go under.
Yeah.
Work hard. They're going to work hard and work extra and pay it off. They don't want to take any more debt off because they know they got to pay it back.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Do you need a motion or just consensus to do that? So.
My feeling is consensus, direction to begin some outreach and communicating with folks.
Because we'll have to approve them anyway.
Right.
Once the
Okay,
revolving
that's
loan
fine.
fund.
Right.
Okay. Consider use of technology reserve fund for purchase of new laptop and 2 new monitors with camera and audio.
Yes, please.
Because we can
Didn't I
give Bruce
suggest a
back
new
his
laptop
laptop.
like 6 months ago for you? You're like, I'll just manage on this
I make a
laptop. I
motion-
just have to hand crank it each day.
I make a
No,
motion.
she's got Bruce's laptop.
No, I know. I was suggesting 4 months ago, I said, would you like a new laptop? And you're like, no, it's totally fine. And now later on, it's like, I actually borrowed one so I could do my job. So it's like, yes, let's get you a machine that actually runs.
I make a motion that we take out of the technology reserve fund to buy the laptop and 2 new monitors with a camera.
Second.
Now you gotta put a,
I don't want to see that back on the agenda in 2 weeks, Valerie. Get it bought.
yeah, I was gonna say, you got your, based on the price information she gave us, or up to a certain amount, or are you good with just
Based on the
letting her
price.
go whole hog?
Based on
Up
the
to
price
$1
you
million.
Yeah, right.
Gold plated.
I have a question. I seconded that. I have a question though. So with the monitors with cameras, is it easier or better to just get separate little web cameras to put on a monitor that you already have? Or is it better to get monitors that have built-in cameras?
Tell me where you can buy those cameras and we'll have a talk.
Yeah, I was gonna
You
say,
can't get
I've
web
heard
cameras
that
anymore?
they're very difficult to buy.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it.
The gentleman that I worked with through Dell, I asked him if he had an all-in-one screen just because of the simplicity of it. And he said, I'm so glad you asked me that because that's all we have. He said, if you ask me to quote you any kind of camera, any extra attachment, I would tell you that it's not in stock. They're not, you cannot get them anywhere, and anything you find is jacked in price. And the price difference between this monitor and just a regular monitor that he would have sold me was $25.
That's great.
Yeah,
And it's
but
probably going to be a better monitor, and it will be sharper and brighter.
Okay. Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, you got it, Val. Get it
Thank
ordered.
you.
Okay, consider selection of consultant for public works site and facility analysis. May include deliberation in executive session.
Make a motion. We do talk about that in executive session.
Okay, want to second somebody? I'll second it. Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor of discussing this in executive session, say aye. Or raise your hand. Aye, aye. What does Peter say?
Speaker? You there? Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Executive session.
Eric, will you be interested in participating in that discussion?
What's it going to involve?
Good question.
You staying up later?
Got a movie to watch.
In 5 minutes, I'll be there.
You know, this, if it gets too late and I mean, it's already taken this long. If we want to table it for another time when, you know, it's not so late on the agenda, that's fine too.
Do we need to make a decision? Like,
Is that Peter putting it off?
Yes.
Peter said he'd appreciate putting it off another. Do we have to go?
Even having a quick special meeting for it.
Yeah, a quickie special meeting would be fine.
Do we have to go
Yeah,
to executive session anyway?
okay, set a date.
Okay, quickie special meeting.
2 weeks from tonight, the next meeting isn't going to kill it.
Yeah, so you don't even know what the next agenda looks like, do you, Val?
Let's see, it's filling up.
Be half an hour with the fire truck committee.
I think a quick meeting next Monday would be fine.
There goes our extra
Yeah, because
Mondays.
you're going to have a nice new laptop.
Maybe.
Okay, are you guys all available next Monday?
Looking.
Yes. I don't do anything else.
I know, me either. This is my life.
I got to excuse me a minute, Michelle. I got to go get my cord to charge my phone or Peter's going to be off the air in a minute.
Okay.
Speaker's in a truck somewhere by
So
getting
let's
signal.
plan on next Monday for 7 to talk about this.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a problem, then let Val know.
Okay.
Okay?
So, quick question: executive session, just because numbers are involved, is that correct?
Negotiation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But it seemed like you had made a suggestion to accept one of the proposals, and we
Correct.
are discussing that. We're not discussing the other proposals that have come through.
If you want to, you can.
Yes, we can discuss any of the proposals that come through.
Let me rephrase that. Do we need to discuss the other proposals, or are you comfortable with recommending one since it's already gone through review with you and Eric and Joel?
I'm comfortable recommending it, but if other folks want to talk about it.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to prepare what we'll be talking about, if it's all of the RFPs, or if it's just a single one that we're going to.
Well, I sent some information, I think this afternoon or earlier this morning, with some background about how the recommendation came about.
Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah.
Joel, are you amending your motion to say an executive session or in a special meeting?
Me?
It'll be a special
You're
meeting,
Joel.
special executive meeting.
Yes. Gotcha, sorry.
Okay.
And we're inviting Eric to attend.
Right.
July 20th.
Okay. 7 p.m.
Yep.
Okay. Next.
And that's assuming there's no conflict, but there probably won't be a conflict.
Well, you'll let us know.
Yep, okay.
Consider selection of consultant for public, consider extension of Craig Scribner's Lister's consulting contract to the end of August.
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second?
Ooh, no, Darla's in second.
Darla or Ian second, pick one.
Go, Darla.
Go, Darla.
Yeah, Ian's been on a roll, so yeah,
That's right.
Darla.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Approval of June 22nd and 29th meeting minutes. I think I sent you mine for the 22nd. I just had a couple and I didn't have any changes for the 29th.
Yeah, they look good to me.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Is that a motion, Ian?
Yes.
Somebody want a second?
With changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
So the 2018 minutes we'll put off until the next time, hopefully.
Yes, we are gaining. We are making progress.
Yeah, if we keep having meetings on Monday, we won't.
Just wait until you get that computer. You're going to be able to just race through them.
Accounts payable warrant. I didn't think I saw one.
I failed miserably. I was literally just trying to rush logging in. I was like, oh my gosh, I never sent that to them. Let me pull it up.
Well, you can send it to us and we can approve it via email. So don't rush.
Okay.
Is that all right, guys?
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
There
I
is
guess.
one liquor license application. So I think, Darla, we snagged you today and had you sign it in advance so you didn't have to come back. But if we can get at least 2 others to come in and sign so
I'll
we can
stop
get
in
that
tomorrow.
that would be.
You gotta work it. Peter said he'll sneak in, and I gotta work in Bristol tomorrow, Jen. I'll slide in and do it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Man.
Jeez, Ian, you're off the
Just-
hook.
Are we gonna have 5
Just-
people sign?
I know. Just stay 6 feet apart. Good Lord.
We'll just all come in at different times.
Who is the liquor license? One of the Main Street businesses?
For the Bristol Country Store.
Yeah. The old Gators place down on 116.
Yes. Thank you.
It was a renewal, yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
So Valerie, will you just enter that number in on the meeting notes then when
Yes.
she sends it? Thank you.
I will.
Okay. Select Board Roundtable. Teaker, we'll let go of you first.
Good.
He's good. Jolie.
Figure's all good. Yeah,
Yep, heard that.
we've covered a couple. Eric, heard anything from Donnie Sargent on the Mountain Street sidewalks? Still on for August? By Fred Bezers? The one we've been 2 years now trying to get a sidewalk here?
You talking to me or Valerie?
Either one of you.
Well, Valerie
I-
already answered that.
Yeah, I sent an email a couple weeks ago and I haven't heard back. And also a resident on Mountain Street also is in that loop and also asked the same question, and we haven't heard back, but I'll follow up.
Okay, then we talked about the water by the drain on West Street, by Park Street. Your favorite subject, Eric, I'm sorry. Water shutoffs on North Street. I hit those 3-4 times a day right here in the corner of Point and North. They never got put in, did they?
They can't go in, Joel. There's not enough space between the top of the pavement and the shutoff to put another riser in. Risers are an inch thick. There's only 3/4 of an inch gap.
Okay, so
the riser would actually be sticking out of the pavement, and you'd
We're
catch
gonna-
it with the plow.
I thought even when Ted was on, I thought we decided we were just going to pave them then. Put some blacktop or something.
Well, I can put patch in them. That's no big deal. Yeah, I can do that. I didn't put them in because I didn't remember getting told to put them in, but yeah, that's no problem. I can patch them over. That's easy.
Okay. All right. I checked with Cy, make sure he's labeled them all where they're going to be, not just blue paint. That'll wear off, even if you have to GPS them.
Yep. Okay. I can do that.
And, but one of the things we didn't put on our road trip, and I was hoping to get there, and I forgot all about it, was we've looked at it, Peker and I have, for a number of years, and Michelle and Darla and Ian haven't seen it yet, but Ian walks by it every day, is Basin Street Hill. That Basin Street and the wall, retaining wall.
Yeah, we discussed it with Alan.
Yeah, we're doing an update on that, right?
I was just wondering, I told you, Eric, I was talking with ECI the other day about a couple of 100 feet of that, what do you call it, sheet pilings that they're using in Middlebury.
Yep.
About, would that hold that wall up? And I'm going to look more towards Peker here before he gets cut off here, because I'm not charging yet. I don't know why. Peker down to about 8%. So would that,
You got 8% to tell us your thoughts, Speaker.
what would that do with sheet pile along that wall and backfilling it?
It would probably hold it.
Probably a lot cheaper fix than trying to redo the road and things. Just a thought I had.
The idea was that we put drainage down through there and then just slope it.
Right.
You know, that's part of what Alan's been working on the Mountain Street drainage.
Okay.
So it should all come as part of that plan.
Yeah. So does the board mind if I, one night when I see Melody and Alan walking by, chat with them about what it would be if we put some sheet pilings in there?
I mean, I thought part of the whole plan was also to like flatten out the hill a little bit so people didn't have to drive up onto Main Street, East Street to then get on the road.
Right.
Right. That was the original plan, and I think we're currently, Valerie, correct me if I'm wrong, he's going to update that. Is that right?
Well, he did.
He did update that. He talked to us about it.
Okay.
Right, and one of the next steps is to try to put a funding
$1
package.
million, was it, Valerie?
Yeah.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yes. $1 million.
Million plus, wasn't it?
I thought it was more like 800,000, but
Yeah.
You really think we're going to ever do that then for 800,000? I was just wondering if we just got somebody to say, you know what, if you put an L in there, a sheet pilings where you came up and turned to the left and parked there, then get out of that street. Maybe 150,000. I don't know, but I don't think we'll ever see up in out of our lifetime here doing that for $800,000. We got a lot of other places we could spend 800,000 in single street.
Joel,
Said earlier, in that thing, it might be cheaper to buy the houses out.
can you explain to me what sheet pilings are?
Darla, have you seen those metal things they've been putting along the railroad tracks in Middlebury? Those great big steel things?
Yeah, I guess
They drive them in the ground anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 feet deep.
Uh-huh.
And you can put dirt behind them and everything.
Use them as a retaining wall, basically, Darla.
Use them
Okay.
as a retaining wall.
I was trying to visualize what it would look like.
I was talking to the guy at ECI, we're standing next to him, and I said, what are you going to do with all these? He said, oh, we just take them out and take them back and reuse them on another job. And I just thought they are a foot to put in. So give us some kind of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's a long-term fix.
yes, basically a permanent fix.
Okay.
Or you hope.
Yeah, I guess Right. I guess I'd be interested, Joel, I'd be interested in that. Like if we had the ability to use that, what that might look like. And maybe that's something that we talked to Alan about.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because you're right. If it's 800,000, like, is the town ever going to do that? Probably not. But
No.
if it was 150 or 200 to fix that and to get a proper landing area where cars can come up and safely get onto 116, I think the people who live down there would be very appreciative of that. And I think probably the road crew just getting down, up and down is probably going to be better too. Yeah, so I'd be interested in seeing if that's a potential.
And that's all I had, Michelle.
Okay.
That was enough.
Darla?
I don't have anything for this evening.
Ian?
Nothing for me.
And I'm all set as well. Okay, town administrator's report.
I have nothing to add other than to draw attention to the long list of information in the other business section, other business correspondence, and particularly the Planning Commission's upcoming hearings
Yeah.
on the Unified Development Regulations. And if you've had a chance to glance at the report, they're proposing an aggressive schedule of hearings and adoptions in order to meet the November election ballot schedule for the Unified Development Regulations.
My understanding that supposed to be getting us a copy of that. Or we can download a copy from the website to review and go over, because we have a meeting. That public meeting is for us to attend, correct? If I remember, I'm trying to remember the timeline when we were talking.
Right. Well, anybody can attend the Planning Commission public hearing.
Right.
But once they complete their hearing, they need to transmit it to the select board.
Select board.
There's some overlap between the timeline when the select board needs to actually publish the hearing notice and the time when the select board receives the draft from the Planning Commission.
Mm-hmm.
It's doable.
Speaker's asking if we have to have 2 hearings. And this is on the subdivision regulations.
Yeah,
right?
there is 2
I
hearings.
believe the planning commission has to have one, then they hand it off to us, and then we have to have one. Right?
Correct.
If we make any changes after we hear the people talk, correct?
Right.
We can make
Right.
some. Then it has to go back if they're major changes, I believe.
Substantive changes.
Substantive changes.
There could be minor things, little editorial or editing things, but substantive changes require a second public hearing.
Right. Okay.
So I believe the document has been posted to the Planning Commission page on the website today. We'll make more of an effort to put it elsewhere on the website so people can find it.
Well, and I see A&R issued the
certification for the landfill.
Certification, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Woodland Apartments, I see.
Yeah, is that for those 2 subdivision those 2 lots that were out front we were talking about?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. On one lot, one building would be 3 apartments, and on the other lot, another building would be 4 apartments.
Yeah, okay. And they haven't come to us yet about the water connection?
No.
Okay. I also see we got our state education tax rate. That was pretty.
Can I ask a planning commission question?
What was that, Ian?
I said, can I ask a planning commission question? I noticed, excuse me, I noticed that while the agendas are there for the past 4 meetings, there are no minutes or no materials related to those meetings. Also for the July one, or actually the July one hasn't happened, but for June 16th, 2nd, May 19th, and May 5th, there are no minutes. It'd be nice to see those up.
Good. Chris takes those, doesn't he?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes member of the Planning Commission does.
Okay.
We should get those there since they.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else?
I'll be attending the Krista Serengo's meeting with the Community Engagement Committee.
Oh, good.
If there's anything to report back, I'll let you guys know.
Excellent.
Perfect.
I didn't hear you, Darla.
He's attending the meeting with Krista Serengo and the MAUSD community meeting.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, is there anything else anybody needs, wants?
Nope,
Okay.
it looks like the landfill has been approved for
Yep.
the solar array, which is great news.
Yeah, so one of the things that'll be on the next agenda, if the folks from the Mount A Union School District want to continue with the discussion, is the trail that going around the landfill.
Right.
Eric, have you got a chance to hydro seed the landfill spots yet?
He's shaking his head no.
I can hear it rattling. Thanks, Eric.
I got a hold of Greg. He got a hold of Alan Heisinger, and he's going to meet with either him or his associate that did the evaluation of the landfill, show him where it needs to be done, and he's going to go down, fill them in, seed them, and mulch them.
Okay, so you're not going to hydro?
No, we don't have the hydro. It went to Bridport, and I don't know where it is now.
Okay.
I could call and find it, but they maybe use whoever has it now, maybe on a job with it. It may be not available for 2 weeks or whatever.
Okay.
So
Just get it done. Just like,
that's what I told Greg. Just he'll have to, he'll have to seed it himself and take care of everything. So he said he would.
okay. Did I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Aye, Peter says aye.
I didn't even get to a second. I hope I had a second, but okay.
I'll take it as a second.
Yeah.
All in favor? Any opposed? Great.
Bruce, are you headed home?
Everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.